The day before I went abroad for advanced training, my fiancée warned me not to fall in love with anyone else, not to get into fights, not to skip any classes. Then she tucked a small slip of paper into my hand, telling me to open it whenever I felt lonely for her. It read, "Wait for me to come back, and we'll get married." During the years I spent abroad, I connected with a mysterious system. It revealed everything to me. My fiancée was keeping a boy who looked just like me by her side. According to the original plot's progression, by the time I returned, the heroine would be so deeply in love with him she couldn't let go. Even my friends and family would side with him and criticize me. I, on the other hand, would become the one who shouldn't have appeared, so I decided not to return home just yet. I organized art exhibitions abroad to network with the masters. I constantly charmed the industry veterans, so they would willingly promote my work. And in less than 5 months, I rebranded myself into a rising star, shining brightly in the art world. I even received invitations from industry giants all at once. My market value was set to skyrocket dozens of times over. The system could no longer keep its cool. Shouldn't you return home now? At this point in time, the host should have already discovered the male lead. I looked at my watch and asked the system if the leads were together yet. After receiving a negative response from the system, I smirked. If I don't go back now, can't they push the plot forward by themselves? I've already given them a perfect opportunity. Shen Tanging saw the media reports about me. Her brows furrowed slightly. She knocked and entered Gu Yuding's office. Shen Tangning handed her the tablet. On it was the news of me shining brilliantly abroad. Didn't Jiang Haoming say he was coming back soon? Why is he starting to build a career over there now? Has he found out about you and Song Jingxing? Is that why he's not planning to return? Looking at my photo, then hearing Song Jingxing's name, Gu Yuding felt a momentary pang of guilt. She put the tablet down and said, "That's impossible, unless you guys betrayed me." Shen Tangning lightly punched her shoulder. "Betray you? You're the one doing this terrible thing. We're helping you hide it, and you say we betrayed you. Have you forgotten that Jiang Haoming is also my friend? Gu Yuding, don't you see your own problem? In these past few months, you barely seem to contact him. He used to complain to you about things over there, and video call you once in a while, but lately there's been absolutely nothing. What is really going on between you and Song Jingxing? If Jiang Haoming really found out the truth, then he wouldn't come back, would he?" Gu Yuding couldn't help but panic upon hearing that. Of course, she wanted me to return. Thinking that, she hurriedly sent me a message, asking me when I'd finally be back. Don't forget it was still early morning where I was. Shen Tangning saw Gu Yuding acting like this, and felt a bit angry. How about quickly, before Jiang Haoming returns, break things off once and for all with Song Jingxing? Otherwise, how do you plan to clean up this mess? I've got it covered. You've got it covered. When those two finally meet, who are you going to choose? Shen Tangning glared at her. If you get caught, let's see how you'll end this drama. Shen Tangning, Gu Yuding, and I were all college classmates. We all pretty much met at the same time. Shen Tangning could be considered the witness to our love, the mutual best friend to us both. After graduation, Shen Tangning and Gu Yuding opened a company together, and they've achieved some success. Their sisterhood was naturally very deep, but since I went abroad, Shen Tangning felt Gu Yuding had become very strange, especially the way she kept a college boy. She truly couldn't understand it. Gu Yuding even brought him right in front of her. She felt indignant on my behalf, but also pitied Song Jingxing. My career over there had finally stabilized. My studies and training were finally complete, so I announced in an interview that I was coming home. The system looked at my expression, felt it was like an eagle telling a little chick, "I'm coming to catch you now." As soon as Shen Tangming saw the news, she took the initiative to find Song Jingxing. "Why are you here?" Song Jingxing was working in a coffee shop. His mother was sick in the hospital and needed a lot of money for treatment. Even though Gu Yuding helped him pay the bills, but Song Jingxing didn't want to owe her favors, so he worked part-time jobs everywhere, hoping to pay off the debt as soon as possible. Shen Tangning ordered a coffee. The shop wasn't very busy at the moment. She started talking to Song Jingxing. "Jingxing, leave Gu Yuding." Song Jingxing froze and lowered his head. His eyes turned slightly red. "I know what I'm doing is wrong, but I have no other choice. I desperately need the money." Shen Tangning quickly said, "It'll help you. I can give you the money. If you feel bad, just consider it a loan. You can just pay me back. It'll ensure your mother gets the best treatment." Song Jingxing gripped his apron tightly. "Sister Tangning, I know you're a good person, but I can't take your." Shen Tangning grew a bit impatient. She didn't understand why Song Jingxing was refusing. "Then why can you take Gu Yuding's money?" Song Jingxing looking at Shen Tangning with eyes full of humiliation. Shen Tangning sighed. "I didn't mean it like that. But you should understand one thing. Gu Yuding already has a boyfriend. They love each other very much. What are you even doing getting in between them like this?" Song Jingxing bit his lip hard. His face went pale. I know I'm wrong, but I have no other choice. I can't leave her. I told you I can help you, Jingxing. I can help you. Anything Gu Yuding does for you, I can do too. And you won't have to carry the reputation of being kept. Wouldn't that be better? Song Jingxing kept his head down, crumpling his apron with both hands. He knew he should be happy Shen Tangming offered to help. He should have felt lucky. But in his heart, he didn't want to leave Gu Yuding. Shen Tangming watched him for a moment, then suddenly asked, "Don't tell me you've actually fallen for Gu Yuding." Song Jingxing immediately shook his head. "No, I haven't. How could I love her? I really haven't. I truly don't." Shen Tangming remained silent. Song Jingxing hurriedly grabbed Shen Tangming's hand. "Sister Tangming, I know you're very kind, but I already owe Sister Yueding too much. I can't owe you as well. I know Sister Yueding only sees me as a stand-in. I won't have any other intentions. Trust me." Looking at the pitiful man before her, Shen Tangming couldn't help but feel soft-hearted, but she still pulled her hand away from Song Jingxing. "Jiang Haoming is coming home soon. Jingxing, think it over carefully for yourself." Song Jingxing stood dazed on the spot. He naturally knew who Jiang Haoming was. That was the name Gu Yueding called out whenever she was drunk. It was a forbidden zone he was never allowed to touch. The person for whom Gu Yueding would immediately abandon him to run to their side the moment they appeared. That man was Gu Yueding's fiancé. Gu Yueding had obviously seen my interview as well. She knew I was returning. At the same time, she remembered Shen Tangming's words, so she arranged to meet Song Jingxing right at the apartment she had rented for him. Song Jingxing had finished preparing dinner, waiting for Gu Yuding to come find him with joy. When she arrived, he saw her handing him a contract instead, saying she wanted to end this relationship. "It'll give you the amount of money we agreed upon. This apartment will also be yours. Don't ever appear before me again from now on. Our relationship ends here. It'll handle all the arrangements at the hospital. You don't need to worry." Song Jingxing gripped the contract in his hand, his eyes filled with tears. He asked unwillingly, "Why?" Gu Yuding answered instantly, without hesitation, "He's coming home." Song Jingxing felt like his heart was bleeding. His entire 2 years. It turned out she didn't have a shred of regret. Was he really nothing but a stand-in all along? Gu Yuding saw he was silent, and her brows furrowed slightly. Feeling a bit impatient, she was about to leave. Song Jingxing hurriedly grabbed her clothes, looking up at her with a deeply pitiful gaze. "Could you grant me one last request?" Gu Yuding said nothing, but she didn't push him away either. Song Jingxing's voice was very low, and he began to choke up as he spoke. "I want to celebrate your birthday with you one more time, okay?" Gu Yuding calculated. Her birthday was next week, and I wasn't officially returning until next month. It didn't seem to matter much, so she agreed. Song Jingxing prepared for the birthday party with joy. He booked a KTV room in advance and busied himself decorating everything by hand. He even invited all of Gu Yueding's close friends to attend. Song Jingxing told himself in his heart, after this birthday he would leave forever, take his mother back to their old hometown. So Gu Yueding could never find him again. The birthday party that day was very crowded, and they were all Gu Yueding's friends. She naturally wouldn't show any displeasure. Song Jingxing sat beside her, graciously hosting the guests as if he were the master of the house. She didn't notice anything unusual either. Only Shen Tangming standing nearby looked unhappy. At the very end, when it was time to blow out the candles, everyone started cheering and teasing. "Kiss her. Kiss her. Hurry up and give her a kiss." Song Jingxing's face turned beet red. He shyly lowered his head. Gu Yueding found the whole thing quite tedious, even though she had brought him here. But she hadn't even held his hand once. How could she possibly kiss him? The guys shouted intentionally, "Hurry and kiss her. Our President Gu is getting shy." "That's right, Yuding." She slightly bowed her head, looking at Song Jingxing standing beside her, in his pure white suit, his face flushed rosy. She suddenly found him incredibly adorable. Her heart fluttered for a moment. Song Jingxing looked up straight into Gu Yuding's eyes. The atmosphere between them suddenly became suggestive. Just then, the private room door was suddenly pushed open. I also stepped in wearing an elegant suit. "Oh, it seems I've arrived a bit late." Since they were about to blow out the candles, there was no music playing in the room. Hearing the voice, everyone turned to look at once. Instantly, the ambiguity turned into awkwardness and curiosity. Eyes kept darting back and forth between me and Song Jingxing. The difference between the original and the stand-in was striking. Song Jingxing looked simple and innocent, but I exuded poise, charm, and luxury. Everyone whispered while watching the drama unfold. They mocked Gu Yuding's terrible taste. Where exactly did these two look alike side by side? First, I glanced over Gu Yuding, observing the heroine's appearance. She looked much more mature than I remembered. Looking at the male lead, I couldn't help but smile. Another innocent little white flower type of boy. But I had to admit, he really looked like the original owner. During this time, I had blended my aura with that of the original owner, plus my years of training abroad. My demeanor had become increasingly elegant and refined. There was absolutely no resemblance now. Seeing that no one spoke, I raised an eyebrow. What's wrong, that welcome? Before I finish, I was already enveloped in a warm embrace. I looked up over the shoulder of the person hugging me. It turned out Gu Yueting's seat was now empty. The only thing that caught my eye was Song Jingxing's face, filled with pain and hurt. At this moment, Gu Yueting wished she could carve the person before her into her very soul. You have no idea how much I've missed you. Everyone found this scene even more awkward. The men huddled together, whispering to each other. The way they looked at Song Jingxing was full of contempt and ridicule. Song Jingxing's face was now deathly pale. He could barely stand anymore. He stumbled back and was caught by Shen Tangning. We didn't come here to watch public displays of affection. That's right, Yuting, if you want to be passionate, then go be passionate together at home. For real. The friends started teasing. Gu Yuting let go of me. Looking at me, her eyes were filled with emotion and love. Hearing those teases, she grabbed my hand tightly, intending to lead me away. Are you really leaving? Don't. It was so hard to get everyone together for a meal. Besides, we wanted to see Jian Haoming too. It's been such a long time since we last saw him. You're not allowed to keep him all to yourself. As they spoke, they stepped forward to pull me away from Gu Yuting. Then one by one, they came to greet me. I smiled and answered everyone's questions. After talking to everyone, I was coincidentally pushed in front of Shen Tangning. I looked at her and smiled gently, then opened my arms wide. Hey, Shen Tangning, she looked at me dazed as I approached. Her mind suddenly went blank. I raised an eyebrow in dissatisfaction. What's wrong, boss Shen? Aren't you going to hug me? Hearing that familiar nickname, Shen Tangning broke into a radiant smile. She reached out and pulled me into a hug. Leaning her head to the side, she caught a faint floral scent. I also held her tightly, resting my head on Shen Tangning's shoulder, whispering, I really missed you. Shen Tangning froze. She looked up a bit confused. Seeing everyone around smiling at the two of us, it seemed no one noticed anything unusual. She started to doubt if she had misheard what I said. Gu Yuting saw the two of us hugging and not letting go. Her brows furrowed as she stepped forward, pulling me out of Shen Tangning's arms, hugging me. That's enough reminiscing for now. Feeling the warmth in her arms suddenly vanish, Shen Tangning clenched her fist, feeling a bit empty. Oh, our Yue Ding is getting jealous again. That spilled vinegar look of hers is just too much. Gu Yue Ding glared at them, not deigning to reply, only hugging me even tighter, completely full of possessiveness. I smiled as I listened to their teasing, but my gaze discreetly shifted toward the male lead, who was on the verge of tears. This friend, I haven't met him before, have I? I looked around at everyone, waiting for them to introduce him. The joyful atmosphere suddenly turned icy. Everyone looked away awkwardly. Only a few men had faces full of gossip, watching the drama unfold. They looked at me with meaningful eyes. Seeing this, I turned to look at Gu Yue Ding, with a face full of innocence and trust. When Gu Yue Ding met my gaze, her heart was filled with guilt and anxiety. She glanced towards Shen Tangning. Shen Tangning had already pulled Song Jingxing close. Her expression wasn't very natural either. He's my boyfriend. Hearing this, I widened my eyes in surprise. Boss Shen. Someone actually wanted to take you away. Shen Tangning let go of Song Jingxing and tapped my forehead. What are you even talking about? I smiled and reached out to Song Jingxing. Hello, I am Jiang Hao, Gu Yueting's boyfriend. Song Jingxing looked at the fair, smooth hand before him. Feeling extremely inferior, he timidly reached out his callous hand. Song Jingxing. I lightly squeezed his hand. My eyes inadvertently scanned him from head to toe. Jingxing, don't be so stiff. Everyone here is a close friend. Boss Shen and I have known each other since university. It's been about 7 or 8 years. Shen Tangning added. It's almost 9 years, man. How long were you abroad to not even remember? I chuckled softly. Why do you sound so resentful? Didn't you guys fully support me at first? My slightly coquettish tone made Shen Tangning's heart flutter. She remembered what I had just said. I continued chatting with Song Jingxing. I didn't expect you to like white suits like me too. It seems our tastes are quite similar. We should go to an internet cafe together sometime. Looking at my innocent expression, the friends all had to look away. They feared that if they looked longer, they couldn't help but blurting out the truth. Gu Yuting saw me constantly interacting with Song Jingxing, and she also felt extremely uncomfortable in her heart. She hurriedly pulled me to sit beside her, then whispered, So, where is my birthday gift? I tilted my head teasingly. I've already sneaked back early. Isn't this the biggest gift of all? Gu Yuting smiled at that. Yeah, It counts as one. The rest of them also sat down one by one, seeing Gu Yuding and me looking so well matched, then looking at Song Jingxing lonely in the corner. Everyone couldn't help but frown in concern. Halfway through the party, I excused myself to the restroom. Gu Yuding turned to look at Song Jingxing, who had been silent all this time. You should go home now. Song Jingxing thought his heart was already calloused and couldn't hurt more, but he didn't expect just one cold sentence from Gu Yuding to plunge him back into the abyss of misery. He choked out, "But you promised me." Gu Yuding remained silent. Right now, nothing was more important than Jiang Haoming. Song Jingxing saw that expression and understood her heart completely. He laughed bitterly. It turns out when you meet him again, everything else becomes meaningless compared to him, right? Gu Yuding used silence to confirm her stance. Song Jingxing's tears just kept falling. The friends nearby also began to advise Song Jingxing, "Just go home first, or it will be trouble if Jiang Haoming comes back and sees you." Song Jingxing's face was ashen. Actually, he always considered these people his friends, simply because they were Gu Yuding's friends. He always treated them with total sincerity, remembering everyone's birthdays, meticulously preparing gifts for them. Yet as soon as Jiang Haoming appeared, they all drove him away. "I'm not leaving. You promised me that you would let me celebrate this entire birthday with you." Song Jingxing gritted his teeth, firm in his decision. Gu Yuding furrowed her brows tightly. "I don't need you to be here for the birthday anymore." Song Jingxing questioned her through his tears. "But I've been the one by your side for the last 2 years. I only have one single wish now. I just want to celebrate this last birthday with you. Is that not even allowed? You clearly promised me." A young man couldn't help but sneer. "Stop it. Stop making such an ugly scene. The real deal is already here. Who would care about a stand-in like you anymore?" Another person chimed in to mock Song Jingxing. "You should take a good look at yourself. You could never compare to the original, understand? Why don't you look in a mirror? Don't dream of an ugly duckling turning into a swan. We've already asked you nicely to leave, yet you're still shamelessly lingering there. This look of yours is just too pathetic." Song Jingxing heard those toxic words. Humiliated, he looked at Gu Yuding with expectation. But even though Gu Yuding was frowning in discomfort, she still didn't say a single word to protect him. Song Jingxing's heart had now shattered into tiny pieces. Shen Tangning saw the words were getting more offensive. She couldn't take it anymore and spoke up to stop them, then turned to Song Jingxing. "Let me take you home." Song Jingxing was still stubborn and wouldn't leave. He stepped beside Gu Yuding, grasping her hand. "Yuding, I don't want to go anywhere. Stop making a scene. Let Shen Tangming take you back. If Jiang Haoming really finds out later, and you're dressed exactly like Jiang Haoming today too, if he finds out you're his stand-in." I pushed the door open just then. "What stand-in?" The room fell into silence once again. Gu Yuding saw me appear, and immediately threw off Song Jingxing's hand. Song Jingxing felt a lot of physical pain, but perhaps his heart was hurting 10,000 times more. His face was now ashen, devoid of any color. He looked at Gu Yuding in utter misery. His eyes were filled with deep hurt. That sound also caught my attention. And then I witnessed the scene of Song Jingxing, grasping Gu Yuding's hands. Immediately, I frowned slightly. My eyes darted between Gu Yuding and Song Jingxing. "Aren't you Boss Shen's boyfriend?" A sharp question made the room fall into a terrifying silence. Only the melodious music could be heard playing steadily. Gu Yuding hurriedly stood up and walked toward me. I raised my hand to stop her. "Stay right there." Gu Yuding stood frozen on the spot. The way she looked at me was incredibly complex. I gave her a slight glance, then turned to Shen Tangning. "Which of you is going to explain this to me? What stand-in? Who is my stand-in?" Su Qin hung her head low, wishing she could vanish instantly. She prayed silently that no one would remember she was the one who slipped up. I turned to look at Gu Yuding. Gu Yuding still chose to remain silent, and then I directed my gaze towards Shen Tangning. Seeing Shen Tangning bite her lip and stay silent, I let out a soft, cold laugh. Then I turned around and spotted Su Qin in the crowd. "Su Qin, tell me, who's really replacing whom here?" Su Qin froze the moment her name was called. "It's not what you think. We were just chatting earlier." "Chatting, right? Exactly. We were just having a chat. Don't get the wrong idea." I laughed coldly. "Do you take me for a fool? You call those reactions just chatting?" They all swallowed their words back down. I looked towards Song Jingxing. "Or maybe we should let Mr. Song speak for himself. Just whose boyfriend are you anyway?" Song Jingxing felt his face burning like fire. It felt like his pride was being trampled underfoot. No wonder things felt off the moment I walked in. I looked through the crowd at Shen Tangming. "Old Shen, is he really your boyfriend?" Shen Tangming looked at my bloodshot eyes. For a long silence, she slowly shook her head. I shifted my gaze to Gu Yuding. "Then he must be your boyfriend." Gu Yuding hurriedly denied it. "That's not it. You're the only boyfriend I have. I raised my hand and slapped Gu Yuding right across the face. Song Jingxing gasped and quickly covered his mouth. He stared at Gu Yuding with a look of pure worry. The room fell silent after that slap. I looked at Gu Yuding with utter disappointment. Please explain yourself to your parents, and to my parents as well. About all the despicable things you've done, I must have been blind to ever trust you. With that, I turned and rushed outside. Su Qin stood up abruptly. She stepped quickly toward Gu Yuding. She gave her a shove. Go after him, now. Gu Yuding finally snapped out of it. She hurriedly chased after me. After Gu Yuding caught up with me, she poured out a stream of excuses. He and I are nothing. I haven't even held his hand. Please don't be like this. Can you forgive me? I just lost my head for a moment. Please don't do this. I'm begging you. It was only because I missed you so much. That's why I couldn't help myself. I covered my ears. I don't want to hear it. Gu Yuding suddenly stopped. I appeared very calm at that moment. I never allow myself to look pathetic, so even now, I still look composed. Gu Yuding, let's both calm down. I don't know if you're being honest or lying anymore. I've lost all faith in you. I need some time to clear my head. Let's not see each other for a while. Gu Yuding felt a chill run down her spine. Are you going to leave me? My voice cracked. Then what do you want me to do? I came back full of joy just to celebrate your birthday. And what did I find you doing? You were with another man. Gu Yuding, you were the one who betrayed me. Gu Yuding quickly grabbed my hand. I didn't. I've never done anything to wrong you. Please forgive me just this once. I'm begging you. At first, I struggled to pull away, but then I just let her embrace me. Let's spend some time apart to cool off, so I can sort through this mess of emotions. And you go clean up your complicated mess. We'll talk again after that. Gu Yuding agreed instantly. I'll deal with him right away. Let me settle things with him first, then we'll talk. You promised to give me another chance. I stayed silent for a moment and said nothing else. Shen Taiming took Song Jingxing home. Only then did she return to her own apartment. Throughout the entire journey, her mind was filled with the image of me breaking down. Her heart suddenly clenched in pain. She shouldn't have let Gu Yuding from the start do such terrible things. She had just reached the apartment door. Shen Taiming saw a figure sitting there, right in front of her door. That thin figure was trembling slightly in the cold wind. Shen Taiming could hardly believe her eyes. She blinked softly, but the figure didn't vanish. I looked up and saw Shen Taiming standing there in a daze. I stood up unsteadily. My legs were numb from sitting for so long. I couldn't quite keep my balance and tumbled onto the steps. Shen Taiming rushed over to catch me. She took off her coat and wrapped it around me. I leaned weakly against her warm chest, complaining softly. Why are you just getting back now? At that moment, Shen Taiming was filled with regret. She shouldn't have gone to see Song Jingxing off. Feeling the icy arm of the person in her arms, Shen Taiming's regret grew even deeper. She hurriedly hugged me even tighter, apologizing while helping me into the apartment. I'll give you a key later. Next time, just let yourself in. You came here and didn't even bother to call. One call and I would have been right back. Shen Taiming kept mumbling to herself, while gently laying me down on the sofa. She went to get a blanket and wrapped it around me. Then she immediately went to the kitchen to boil some water. I sat on the sofa, staring down at my hands, looking absolutely heartbroken while the water was boiling. Shen Taiming couldn't take her eyes off me on the sofa. Her eyes were full of heartache. The system watched this feeling a bit confused. Host, Shen Taiming is just a supporting character. Why did you come to her place? I kept my head down in silence. My nose was red from the cold. My eyes had long since turned bloodshot. Hearing the system, I gave a faint, bitter smile. Didn't you say not to worry about the plot deviating? That of course I have to make her pay. How could a betrayal of friendship go unpunished? I'm going to make her regret it to her very core. In the original plot, Shen Taiming was a mutual friend of both the original host and Gu Yuding. Yet when she saw Gu Yuding cheating, she did nothing to stop it. She didn't even give the host a single warning. She even blamed the host for coming back and upsetting Song Jingxing. She actually told him he shouldn't have returned. How could I let someone else scold me? Of course, I'll take the moral high ground and blame them instead. Shen Taiming handed me the glass of water. She opened her mouth to say something, but hesitated, not knowing where to start. For some reason, Shen Taiming didn't seem to want to mention Gu Yuding at all right now. I took a sip of the hot water, feeling my body warm up slightly. I looked up directly into Shen Taiming's eyes. In just a second, Shen Taiming was completely drawn into my gaze. She stared at me blankly, without blinking. She cautiously squatted down in front of me, just sitting there without leaving. How long have you known? I asked. Shen Taiming snapped out of it, unable to look me in the eye. She turned her head away, deliberately avoiding my gaze. I immediately understood the hesitation in her heart. I stated firmly, "You've known from the very beginning." Shen Taiming looked at me. Her eyes were full of apology and heartache. I curled my lips slightly. with a bitter smile. So you knew all along. Yet you didn't say a word to me. You even helped her deceive. Shen Tangning bit her lip hard. I'm sorry. I lowered my head. Shen Tang. Are we still friends? Shen Tangning replied hastily. Of course. We will always be best friends. I looked up at her. The disappointment in my eyes was plain to see. So for over 2 years now, after all the messages I sent you, did you ever once think about telling me the truth? Shen Tangning hung her head. She had thought about it, but she was afraid of how much it would hurt. She still remembered the moment I left, the sparkle in my eyes when I talked about my dream, and she feared that because of this, I would give up on them. Shen Tangning didn't dare imagine if I would have regrets. That's why she kept the secret buried in her heart. I know the answer now. I set the glass down. I pushed Shen Tangning aside and stood up to leave. Seeing this, Shen Tangning grabbed my arm. Where are you going? I turned to look at her. Shen Tangning, are you still the Shen Tangning I used to know? Seeing the tear rolling down my cheek, Shen Tangning let out a soft sigh. She pulled me into a tight hug. I'm sorry. Don't be sad anymore. This is all my fault. I should have stopped her from the start. I should have told you the truth much sooner. Maybe my nerves were just too frayed. Or maybe I had been holding it in for too long. When I was finally held and comforted, I suddenly lost all control, sobbing uncontrollably from the sheer weight of it all. What did I do wrong? Why is everyone treating me like this? Shen Tangning heard my choked-up sobs. Her chest felt like it was being stabbed. Sharp pangs of pain kept rushing in. They had truly hurt me. She didn't know how to answer. She could only hold me even tighter. The system saw me nestled in the supporting female lead's arm, crying as if my heart was breaking. It couldn't help but click its tongue in amazement. Waiting until the host had drifted off from exhaustion and was carried into the bedroom by her, the system still felt a bit of tension, but in the end, it saw her cherishing him like a precious treasure, gently wiping my face clean, then carefully tucking me in, before tiptoeing back out. Early next morning when Shen Tangning woke up, of course, I was already long gone. Seeing breakfast already prepared on the table, Shen Tangning felt a wave of warmth in her heart. She ate the breakfast even though it was a bit cold. Then she sent me a message. After that, she went to work. After leaving Shen Tangning's, I went straight home to meet some elders with my parents. Gu Yueting's parents were among them. Jiang Haoming has really grown up. He's getting more handsome by the day. Exactly. And it's not just his looks. He's quite the talented young man now. Old Jiang, you two will have a very happy life ahead. I linked my arm with my father's, keeping a perfectly polite smile on my face. Hearing the elders' praise, I just smiled modestly. They're all being too kind, uncles and aunts. Media just exaggerates things. It really is better to have a son. Look at Jiang Haoming. He still finds time for his parents. Unlike my stubborn daughter. Who knows where she's run off to now? Can't even see a shadow of her. Like they say, a son is like a warm coat for his parents' hearts. Right? That girl of mine never even thinks about staying home with me. Whenever I look for her, she's nowhere to be found. I should have had a son back then too. Not every son is like that though. Haven't you seen that Zhao boy? Always dressing like those punks on the street. I think Mrs. Zhao is about to lose her mind over him. In the end, it's still old Jiang's family. They really are blessed. I stayed by my parents' side the whole time, portraying the image of a filial and attentive son perfectly. Obedient yet elegant and generous. Earning praise from quite a few elders. Gu Yue. Ding. Her parents had just heard everyone around them praising me, with radiant smiles. The wedding must be coming soon. It was only delayed because John Haoming had to study abroad. Originally, regarding my training overseas, there were a few things they weren't entirely happy about, but now they felt immensely proud because of my success. Moreover, they were extremely satisfied with their future son-in-law. Whenever someone praised me, they'd insist the wedding was close. To anyone watching, he looked like a very happy father-in-law. Naturally, I took advantage of a quiet moment to personally greet Gu Yueting's parents and mention that I'd brought them gifts from abroad. I'll bring them over when I make my official visit. Mother Gu was very pleased with such a well-mannered son-in-law. She smiled and nodded before letting her husband take over the conversation. Father Gu was, of course, utterly satisfied. He took my hand and gave me some kind fatherly advice. Not until someone else came to see him did he reluctantly let me go. As the elders' party was nearing its end, I finally met the person I had been waiting for. Sha Qianshu, Gu Yueting's aunt, the doted-upon youngest daughter of the Sha family head. She is currently 29 years old, only 4 years older than Gu Yueting. This was a private party for acquaintances. The guests were all longtime close friends, and almost everyone there was a parent at this age level. Only Sha Qianshu and I belonged to the younger generation. When I found Sha Qianshu, she was sunbathing on a lounger on the second-floor balcony. She had a book over her face to block the sun. Sensing a strange noise nearby, Sha Qianshu peeked her eye open. She took the book off her face. She looked straight and saw a man in a white shirt standing there. His gaze was fixed intently on her. Sha Qianshu's eyebrows knit together. She moved the book in her hand a bit lower, to cover her chest from his hair. Sha Qianshu felt a bit displeased. She looked up, intending to shoo him away, but then she noticed the abs clearly visible through. Sha Qianshu's throat bobbed slightly. She couldn't help but run her finger along the book. I leaned down. Smiling, I asked, "Miss Sha, do you like this book too? I've looked through several bookstores and couldn't find it. Would you mind letting me take a look at it?" Sha Qianshu sat up from the lounger. Without hesitation, she handed the book to me. Of course. I couldn't hide my excitement. I quickly reached out with both hands to take it. In the moment I took the book, my hand accidentally brushed against Sha Qianshu's. When Sha Qianshu pulled her hand back, she suddenly raised her hand and took a light sniff. A sweet scent of roses immediately lingered at the tip of her nose. Clutching the book, I sat down opposite her. First, I flipped through the book for a while. Then I closed the book. I looked up at her. "Im Jiang Haoming. And what is your name, miss?" Sha Qianshu raised an eyebrow, thinking to herself, is he doing this on purpose, or is this really that Jiang Haoming? Sha Qianshu. My eyes suddenly lit up. I pulled out my mobile phone. Let's exchange contact info after I finish reading this book. I'll definitely treat Miss Sha to a meal. Sha Qianshu looked at him, since he just sat down. His vest had ridden up slightly. That glimpse of his abs made her heart race. Sha Qianshu leaned forward slightly to hide her racing thoughts. She took out her phone, exchanged contacts with me. Once the contact exchange was successful, I leaned back comfortably in my chair. I flipped through the book, a slight smile on my lips. I looked as if I were truly captivated by the book. Sha Qianshu didn't leave either. She just sat there quietly across from me. Her gaze occasionally drifted to that scenic view peeking out. While her counterpart seemed completely oblivious, the two of them just sat there in silence, one engrossed in reading, the other quietly watching, until my father came to call for me. I finally stood up to leave. Just as I was leaving the balcony, I suddenly turned back. I waved the book in my hand. "I'll take you to dinner once I'm done," until my silhouette completely vanished from sight. Only then did Xia Qianshu rub her fingertips together to suppress the fluttering sensation in her heart. After returning from the party, I stayed home obediently to read the book. Not until I had finished the entire thing did I finally open my email. Inside were the documents from the private investigator. Information about Song Jingxing. Song Jingxing's mother had leukemia. Because a matching bone marrow hadn't been found for a transplant, she was still in the hospital for chemotherapy, and all those expensive medical costs were naturally being paid in full by the female lead. I looked at Song Jingxing's address, checked his daily routines sent by the detective, found out he was working at a cafe today, so I went straight there. "Welcome. What would you like to order?" When Song Jingxing looked up, the smile on his face suddenly froze. He had met the man before him once already. I scanned Song Jingxing from head to toe. At the last party, Song Jingxing had worn the suit Gu Yueting gave him, but today he was just in his normal clothes. Seeing the other man observing him closely, he suddenly felt extremely awkward. I stared at him for a few more seconds, then I chose a seat right by the window. "A latte, please." Song Jingxing snapped back to his senses. "Yes, please wait a moment." While making the coffee, Song Jingxing occasionally stole glances at me. He couldn't help but admit that man was indeed very elegant and attractive, a complete world away from himself. But when he thought of Gu Yueting's face, Song Jingxing's complexion suddenly turned pale. Song Jingxing placed the finished coffee in front of me. "Enjoy your drink." I called out to Song Jingxing as he turned. "Wait." Song Jingxing's body stiffened instantly, but he still slowly turned around. "Yes. Do you need anything else?" I used the spoon to gently stir the coffee. "I want to ask you something. During your time as Gu Yueting's lover, did you know she already had a fiancé?" Song Jingxing stood rooted to the spot, his face white as a sheet. When his mother was diagnosed with leukemia, at the moment he felt his whole world was collapsing. It was Gu Yueting who helped him through everything. She arranged the best hospital and the best specialists for his mother, and paid for the massive medical bills. Song Jingxing thought his princess had finally arrived. But right in the midst of his greatest joy, she suddenly presented an agreement, demanding he dress entirely according to someone else's taste, to change who he was, forcing him to like the things that person liked, forcing him to play the role of a substitute for someone else. Song Jingxing felt his world crumbling all over again, yet he couldn't bring himself to refuse. He had no way to say no to Gu Yueting, because she was his mother's savior, and the only girl he secretly loved. So Song Jingxing thought, let me be selfish just this once, to be by Gu Yueting's side while that other person was away, to keep her company. But somehow, without him realizing, both of them had crossed the line. Gu Yueting treated him better and better each day. She even took him to meet her circle of friends, and he himself became increasingly dependent on her. If not for the appearance of the man before him, perhaps Song Jingxing would have truly fantasized that he was the one Gu Yueding had been longing for all along. Seeing him in this state, what was there left for me to understand? I spoke with sarcasm. So, knowing full well Gu Yueding had a fiancé, you still chose to be her secret lover. Song Jingxing's face turned ash gray. His eyes suddenly turned red. It felt like his self-esteem was being trampled underfoot. But I didn't stop there. I continued to interrogate him. So, do you know? Gu Yueding and I didn't get engaged because of our parents' arrangements, but because we genuinely liked each other. Do you know we got engaged because of our sincere love? Song Jingxing gripped the edge of his apron tightly. He suddenly recalled a time when Gu Yueding came to him completely drunk. She kept rambling about her beautiful memories with Jiang Haoming. His eyebrows furrowed deeply. Having just finished serving a group of customers, Qizhen was about to approach Song Jingxing. He saw him standing there with a deathly pale face. He frowned with concern, just as he was about to step in. He heard the guest mention Gu Yueding's name. Looking at the guest's attire and aura, all expensive designer brands, Qizhen assumed this was some obsessed admirer of Gu Yueding, coming to pick a fight with her official boyfriend, Song Jingxing. He immediately hurried to call Gu Yueding. When Gu Yueding received the call, she was with Shen Tangning. Noticing Gu Yueding's unusual expression, Shen Tangning asked what was wrong. Gu Yueding frowned and replied, Qizhen called. Someone is looking for trouble with Song Jingxing. Shen Tangning's face instantly soured. Haven't you truly broken things off with him yet? Gu Yueding's expression was also terrible. She had intended to make things clear with him that day. But then Song Jingxing's mother's condition took a turn for the worse, so she had to stay by his side for another night. Consequently, she still hadn't said what needed to be said. Looking at Gu Yueding's flustered face, Shen Tangning's face went completely dark. Are you really going? Gu Yueding replied sternly. I'm just afraid it's Song Jingxing's cousin. Are you kidding me? She had met Song Jingxing's cousin once before. He was a complete scumbag, often came to extort money from Song Jingxing, and didn't hesitate to beat him up. I'll go with you. The cafe where Song Jingxing worked wasn't too far from Gu Yueding's company, just about a 10-minute drive. They arrived at the shop in no time. Right now, Song Jingxing and I were still in a standoff. Mr. Song, tell me, what will it take for you to leave my fiancé? Song Jinghang's expression froze. He clutched his apron for a long time before finally whispering, I'm sorry. Don't say another word. Whatever amount of money you want, I can give it to you. Song Jinghang looked as though he had just been deeply insulted. He bit his lip hard, refusing to speak. Qizhen, watching from a distance, saw that Song Jinghang was on the verge of tears. He hurried over immediately. He looked at me with a smile. Hey, handsome, is there anything else you need? I shot him a quick glance. I didn't even bother to care. Instead, I kept my eyes fixed on Song Jinghang. Mr. Song, you're only staying by Gu Yueding's side for the money. I can provide that for you. I only hope you can stay away from her. Song Jinghang lowered his head. He was almost bursting into tears. Qizhen's anger flared up upon hearing those words. He despised people who use money to look down on others the most. How can you say something like that? Do you think money can buy love? Our Jinghang isn't with President Gu just because of money. Don't you get it? They share a true love. Who do you think you are? What right do you have to tell someone's official boyfriend to leave? Song Jinghang gently tugged on Qizhen's sleeve. I gave a cold laugh. Official boyfriend? Is that what you've been telling everyone? Qizhen couldn't stand the sarcastic tone. He stepped forward to shield Song Jinghang. Hey, who the hell are you? Don't think you're special just because you have some dirty money. Do you think we're afraid of you? Qizhen's voice was very loud. Everyone else in the cafe turned to look in our direction. I wasn't the least bit intimidated. Who am I? Hasn't this Mr. Song told you yet? I am the fiancé of the President Gu you just mentioned. Qizhen was about to argue back. Then it suddenly registered what the other man had just said. He froze in place. Fiancé? That's right. Gu Yueding and I have been in love for 7 years. We've been engaged for 3 years. How come I didn't know that Gu Yueding had another official boyfriend? Qizhen slowly turned to look at Song Jinghang. He saw Song Jinghang standing there, his face completely pale. He didn't make even the slightest attempt to deny it. At that moment, Qizhen's heart turned cold. He continued, Not for the money, you say. As far as I know, Mr. Song is still a student, isn't he? The expenses from your mother's hospitalization to her treatment must have cost at least several 100,000 yuan by now. Does Mr. Song dare to claim that Gu Yueding didn't pay for all of that? I wonder in what capacity Mr. Song is spending Gu Yueding's money. The customers in the cafe all watched the scene in shock. This drama of the fiancé confronting the side piece was truly something else. When Gu Yueding and Shen Tangning walked in, She only saw Song Jinghang with his head bowed. Tears were still streaming down his cheeks, and I was hidden behind Kijin. Gu Yueding didn't see me. Seeing this, her anger flared. She rushed over and pulled Song Jinghang toward her. Who bullied you? Kijin turned around when he heard her voice. Gu Yuding also happened to look over right then. She caught my eyes just as Kijin slightly stepped to the side. Gu Yuding froze in her tracks. Coming to her senses, she hurriedly shoved Song Jinghang away. Song Jinghang was knocked back against a nearby table. He looked at Gu Yuding in pure disbelief. I gave a bitter laugh. Is this what you called? Begging me for another chance. You said you would take care of it properly. Gu Yuding took 2 steps forward. It's not like that. Jiang Haoming, I didn't. But the moment she approached, I immediately stood up and backed away. Don't come near me. Gu Yuding, I'm so disappointed in you. You honestly make me feel sick. With that, I took the cup of coffee in my hand and splashed it directly into Gu Yuding's face. Then I pulled out a few 100 yuan bills from my pocket. I placed them on the table and walked out without looking back. Gu Yuding wiped the coffee from her face. She was about to chase after me, but Shen Tangning stopped her. Don't provoke him any further. I'm worried something might happen to him. Hearing this, Gu Yuding grew even more anxious. She wanted to go after him but didn't dare to. Shen Tangning spoke up again. Let me go check on him. Focus on dealing with your own mess first. Watching Shen Tangning's back as she chased after me, Gu Yuding felt an even sharper pang of agony in her heart. Kijin stood there in a daze. His expression was incredibly grim. His friend, the one he thought was pure, turned out to be a homewrecker, and the kind who intentionally meddles, knowing the person is already taken. Song Jinghang had just managed to stand firm. When he met Gu Yuding's gaze, his heart skipped a beat in fear. Gu Yuding looked at Song Jinghang coldly. Her voice carried a hint of hatred. Never show your face in front of me again. And you're certainly not allowed to appear before him. Having said that, Gu Yuding strode away. Immediately, everyone in the cafe looked at Song Jinghang with hostile eyes, especially some of the regulars. They used to think this young man was honest. They never expected him to be such a high-level manipulator. Song Jinghang heard Gu Yueding's words. It felt like his heart had been pierced through. He clutched his chest in agony. He expected someone to come and comfort him, but after waiting, there wasn't a single sound. He couldn't help but look toward Kijin. He saw that Kijin had long ago returned to the bar counter and was already busy serving customers. Shen Tangming caught up with me. She pulled me back and hailed a taxi. In no time, she had brought me back to her villa. As soon as we entered the apartment, I stopped. Shen Tangning, who was leading me by the hand, also stopped. She turned around and asked me gently, "What's wrong?" I suddenly threw myself into the arms of the woman before me, holding her very tightly. Shen Tangning was a bit taken aback. Then she also wrapped her arms around me. I spoke slowly. "Shen Tangning, do I only have you left now?" Shen Tangning's heart broke for me. She pulled me closer. "Don't be sad anymore. You still have me." I stayed at Shen Tangning's place for another night. The next morning, I left breakfast for her and then departed. When I returned home, I discovered an extra set of keys in my pocket. A faint smile touched my lips. So, a fish has taken the bait. I set the book on the nightstand aside, took out my phone and sent a message to Xia Qianshu. "Miss Xia, I've finished reading the book. When will you be free? I'd like to treat you to dinner and return the book at the same time." When Xia Qianshu received the message, she was listening to her assistant's work report. Hearing the phone ring, the assistant was slightly startled. Then she nervously glanced at her boss and took her own phone out of her pocket, checking it secretly, seeing there were no messages. While the assistant was still confused, she saw her boss pick up her own phone and open the WeChat app. Xia Qianshu saw the message and slightly raised an eyebrow. The first image that popped into her head was those firm abs. The assistant stood quietly to the side, waiting for her boss to reply to the message. She couldn't help but feel incredibly surprised. She had been working as the boss assistant for 5 years. She had never seen her boss use these messaging apps before. Her boss was only in her early 30s, but she lived like a man in his 50s. Seeing her boss now glued to her phone replying to messages, the assistant raised an eyebrow, curious as to who was on the other end of the line. I was busy flirting with Xia Qianshu via text, while also starting preparations for my art exhibition. Thanks to my efforts abroad, my reputation had skyrocketed. As soon as news spread that I was holding an exhibition, quite a few people approached me seeking sponsorship. I brought out works I had completed earlier. Most of them would be used as exhibits. I only needed to paint a few more pieces myself to be able to hold the exhibition. "You want to paint a starry sky?" Xia Qianshu was chatting with me. She realized I was preparing for an exhibition and that I intended to paint a piece of the night sky. She immediately called me up. I answered the call with a bit of surprise. "Yes. But in the city, you never get to see a truly beautiful starry sky. I have no creative inspiration at all." Xia Qianshu raised her eyebrow. Her voice carried a hint of enticement. "I know a place where you can see an incredibly magnificent starry sky. My voice immediately grew excited. Really? Sha Qianshu slightly curled her lips. Want to go? Sha Qianshu smiled, checking her schedule. Am free this afternoon, seemingly seeing through her thoughts. I let out a soft smirk. My voice was tinged with a bit of mystery. How about I treat Miss Sha to a meal, and then Miss Sha takes me to see the stars? Sha Qianshu didn't agree immediately. You still haven't treated me to the meal you owed from last time. I smiled. Well, let's just push that debt to the next time. When I went to see Sha Qianshu, I had intentionally changed into a different outfit, a thin chiffon shirt, which further accentuated the lines of my abs. Arriving at Sha Qianshu's company, I saw a woman with glasses waiting there. Seeing me, she came over to greet me. Mr. Jiang, hello. I'm President Sha's assistant. President Sha asked me to come welcome you. The assistant smiled. Her expression was very gentle, but inside she was screaming. No wonder a conservative person like her boss would occasionally be glued to her phone. He's definitely at a god-tier level. Yes, thank you. I smiled slightly. Following the assistant toward the elevator, I caught a glimpse of the receptionist's gossiping face, then entered the elevator to go up. Sha Qianshu was reviewing the documents in her hand, since she was about to go out with me. She had focused on getting through her work earlier. The number of documents to review had increased because of that. Hearing the light sound of footsteps entering the room, Sha Qianshu knew immediately that it wasn't her assistant. She hurriedly looked up and saw me, standing right in front of her. Before Sha Qianshu could even look away, her throat suddenly went dry. I walked right up to Sha Qianshu and sat on her desk. President Sha, can't you skip work today? Sha Qianshu looked at my legs right next to her. Her fingertips rubbed together slightly, suppressing the restlessness rising within her. Can't wait anymore? I smiled. The painting supplies I ordered won't arrive for another half hour. I wonder if in that half hour, President Sha can finish dealing with this pile. I tapped the stack of documents in front of her with my finger. Sha Qianshu lowered her head and chuckled softly. Of course. Well, set off exactly in half an hour. I raised an eyebrow. And dinner. Sha Qianshu looked at my legs swinging in front of her. Her throat tightened. She really wanted to say she didn't want to go eat. There's a restaurant there. The taste is quite good. I nodded and stood up satisfied. Strode with my long legs to the sofa nearby and sat down. I sat angled towards Sha Qianshu. My two long legs crossed over each other, then sprawled out on the sofa to play with my phone. Sha Qianshu's gaze never stopped wandering over me, until I laughed because I saw something interesting. Then Sha Qianshu snapped out of it. She lowered her head and started processing the documents. After the assistant left, people kept coming to probe for information. She smiled as she looked at her exploding message box. What's the point of asking her? Even she didn't know. If that was her boss's future husband. Half an hour later, the assistant knocked and entered carrying the art set. Mr. Jiang, here's what you needed. I stood up from the sofa, flashing a bright smile. These are mine, thank you. Faced with the smile of a god, the assistant's mouth widened into a smile as well. Before she could say anything, she heard her boss's voice. You've delivered it. Now get out. Yes, ma'am. I smiled and waved goodbye to her, watching her walk out happily. I picked up the items and went to Sha Qianshu, placed the supplies on the desk, and sat on her desk again, gently kicking her chair with my right foot. President Sha isn't off work yet. Sha Qianshu looked at the man before her, and looked at the document in her hand, and finally made a decision. She stood up and stepped close to me, her body quickly pressed against mine. I leaned back slightly. My eyes didn't look away, staring straight at Sha Qianshu. The two of us got closer and closer, so close that we could both feel each other's hot breath. Sha Qianshu tilted her head slightly. The corner of her mouth pressed against my lips. Just as she was about to kiss me, she stopped. Then I guess I'm getting off work early today. Having said that, Sha Qianshu stood up straight. Her left hand had already picked up the art supplies I had placed on the desk. Sha Qianshu loosened her tie slightly, as if her previous action was merely to help me carry my things. Let's go. Work is over. A bright smile broke across my face. Small sparks of light danced in my eyes, as if I had been waiting for Sha Qianshu for a very long time. I jumped off the desk and walked side by side with Sha Qianshu as we headed out. The assistant was slightly surprised to see the two of us coming out. She came forward to meet us. Sha Qianshu saw the assistant and used a few brief sentences to instruct her on what needed to be done today, then led me to the elevator to leave. The assistant watched her boss walk a few steps. The boss even turned back to see if I was keeping up. Seeing me right behind her, she continued walking. The slight curve at the corners of her mouth made the assistant start questioning life. This is the first time the boss has ever finished work this early. I got into Sha Qianshu's car, letting her fasten my seatbelt with indifference. Leaning back in the seat, looking left and right. Finally, I took a small safety charm out of my pocket and hung it in her car. Xia Qianshui watched my actions, a natural gesture as if she were my possession. Not only was she not angry, but on the contrary, she smiled and started the engine. This is a resort. In fact, it's a resort still under construction. As we were about to arrive, Xia Qianshui glanced over at the man sitting quietly in the passenger seat. "Aren't you afraid I'll sell you off?" Hearing that, I looked away from my phone screen and looked at Xia Qianshui. How much could I possibly be worth? Xia Qianshui smiled softly. "You're actually quite valuable." I smiled, looking at the scenery by the road. "This place isn't open yet, is it?" Xia Qianshui nodded. "That's right. So you are the very first guest here. Everyone hopes to be special." Hearing those words, I truly felt very happy. I began to carefully observe the resort. The village is beautiful, rich in ethnic elements. Houses are all stilt houses, and they are all made of wood, looking very exquisite. The car stopped next to a lake. I stepped out and saw the lake covered in lotus leaves. Turning to say to Xia Qianshu, "We should have waited until June to come here." Xia Qianshu smiled. "It'll bring you back then." The lake is huge with a beach on the shore, covered with scattered pebbles. I strode across the pebbles, feeling incredibly refreshed. Xia Qianshu handed the car keys to the manager there and gave some soft instructions. "Prepare some local specialties and clean up the house in the middle of the lake." Once the instructions were finalized, Xia Qianshu strode to catch up with me. I walked along the lakeshore. Barefoot by the lake, my legs looked even longer. Xia Qianshu stepped up beside me. "The night sky here is beautiful. Tonight you can admire it to your heart's content." I turned to look at her, my eyes filled with a smile. "I truly appreciate this, President Xia." Xia Qianshui smiled as she introduced the history and attractions of the resort to me. "That's why many of the people working here are locals who have always lived in this village." I looked at Xia Qianshui with a bit of surprise. Xia Qianshui nodded. "Yes, I bought their land. They rent my houses to live in, while also opening shops to make a living here. This is much better than me having to recruit new staff." Xia Qianshui looked at the nearly completed resort. She chuckled softly. "They will cherish and protect this place, more than any other employees of mine." I smiled. "President Xia really is a brilliant business person. Maybe you should teach me?" Xia Qianshui looked down at the man, standing before her. "Sure, you'll have to pay tuition. Are you really short of that bit of money?" Xia Qianshu looked into the clear eyes before her. A seductive spark touched her lips. I didn't say anything about money. I raised an eyebrow, showing a bit of interest. "Then what do you want?" Xia Qianshu remained silent for a long time. After having piqued the other's curiosity to the max, she finally spoke. "I'll tell you later. Let's go. Let's have dinner." With that, she strode toward a nearby restaurant. I'm not sure if I was just wandering aimlessly earlier, but I happened to be walking exactly toward the restaurant. "You have to tell me first." I chased after her indignantly, grabbing Xia Qianshu's shirt, quickly catching up to her pace. After we both finished eating, the sun had set. I was planning to stroll along the lake to digest my meal, when Xia Qianshu lightly tapped my head. I turned to look. Xia Qianshu happened to lean close to my ear. "Look up and see." At that, I looked up and was stunned. The vast night sky, brimming with stars, like pearls of all sizes scattered across a jade platter, emitting shimmering, mystical lights. After returning from the resort, Xia Qianshu got pulled back into her busy work. I also felt this level of intimacy was just right. So I didn't proactively contact Xia Qianshu. Instead, I chatted frequently with Gu Yuiting and Shen Tangning. Gu Yuiting seemed to truly want to apologize. She constantly sent flowers to my apartment, every day, regardless of whether I replied. She took every chance morning and night to text me with care and concern. Looking at the mountain of messages on my phone, I frowned slightly and turned off the screen. Continuing to paint to prepare works for the exhibition, perhaps because I had been back for a while. My parents hadn't seen me visit the Gu family, feeling something was amiss. They requested that I visit the elders there and schedule a meal between the two families. Reluctantly, I had to bring gifts I'd bought abroad to go to the Gu house. The Jiang and Gu houses weren't far apart, only a half-hour drive to get there. Before going, I called Gu Yuding's parents to inform them, and of course I knew they would definitely tell her. As for whether Gu Yuding would be there, that wasn't within my scope of concern. "Mr. Jiang is here." The butler saw me, his face lighting up with a smile. He still remembered the engagement party from a few years ago vividly. He always felt Miss Gu and Mr. Jiang were a match made in heaven. I smiled. "Uncle Liu, are the master and madam home?" "Yes, of course they are. Please come in." I carried the gifts through the door. Instantly, I saw Yuiting's mother sitting in the living room watching TV. "Auntie." Hearing my voice, her mother hurriedly stood up. She didn't forget to pause the palace drama she was watching. She walked over to welcome me warmly. "Just coming over is enough. Why bother bringing gifts?" No need for such formalities. You're really making a fuss, I smiled, taking out the gift in my hand. This is for you, Auntie. When I saw this silk scarf abroad, I thought it would suit you perfectly. So I bought it specifically before coming home. The silk scarf was from a luxury brand. It's very difficult to find domestically. Auntie saw her favorite purple color. Deeply satisfied, the corners of her mouth couldn't help but lift. I'm so touched that you still remembered me while you were over there. I showed my obedient, sensible side. And where is Uncle? I have a gift for him as well. He's in the study. He'll be down in a moment. I didn't get a good look at you last time we met, but why do you look so much thinner? Is it because the food abroad didn't suit your taste? It was okay, I just really missed the flavors of home. The two of us continued to chat lively in the living room. Uncle hadn't come downstairs yet. When I spotted Gu Yueting just returning from outside, Auntie saw her daughter walk into the house clutching a bouquet of flowers. I couldn't help but tease. How many times have you returned? And yet you never once bought flowers for your mother. As soon as she heard you arrive, she came running over with flowers. It seems having a girlfriend allows me to share in the joy as well. Gu Yueting approached and handed the bouquet to me. To show respect to Mother Gu, I reached out to take it. They were my favorite flowers, pink roses. I turned and immediately gave that bouquet to Mother Gu. How about I borrow these flowers to show my respect to you instead, so that you can share in the joy as well? Mother Gu, who was originally grinning, heard this, and her face immediately lit up with a radiant smile. Raising a son truly is more rewarding and thoughtful. I smiled gently. My parents said everyone should go have dinner together tonight. Since Yuting is already back, then let's set off right now. Mother Gu nodded in agreement. She placed the flowers on the tea table and said, "Let me go call her father," waiting until her figure disappeared behind the stairs. The smile on my lips vanished instantly. Gu Yuting knelt before me and gripped my hand tightly. I tried to struggle a few times. Finding I couldn't escape, I just let her be. I really have nothing to do with him anymore. Can you please stop being angry with me? I turned my face away, not bothering to look or reply. Gu Yuting hurriedly tried to explain herself. I have truly cut ties with him completely. Please, you have to believe me. Haoming, from start to finish, I have only ever loved you. It was only because I missed you so much that I did such a foolish thing. You find it in your heart to understand me. I promise you. I will never involve myself with him again. I've even blocked all this contact information, I swear. Jiang Haoming, please believe me. I admit everything was my fault. I know I've done so many things wrong. I only beg you for one more chance. Give our 7-year relationship one last chance. Don't let go of me so easily, okay? Seeing as she had poured out her heart, I intended to say a few words to ease the tension, but that I heard the voices of Mother and Father Gu. The two of them were walking down from upstairs. Yuting heard the sound but wasn't flustered at all. She stood up and sat close beside me, but her hands still held mine tightly, not letting go. Mother and Father Gu had just arrived and saw the young couple sitting close together, hands held tight, looking incredibly intimate. Mother Gu covered her mouth and giggled. Though Father Gu maintained a stern face, the hint of a smile was clear in his eyes. I decisively brushed off Yuting's hand and stood up, politely greeting her father. "Good evening, Uncle." Father Gu gave a slight nod, responding with a simple greeting. Gu Yuting also stood up. "Let's go. Mom, you ride with Dad, and you come with me." Everyone seemed to have no objection to this arrangement, so the whole family set off together. I sat silently in the passenger seat. This feeling was entirely different from being in Tian Su's car. With her, there is freedom and relaxation. I can comfortably show my lazy side. But right now, my face was cold as stone, to let her see that I was still very angry. I leaned back against the seat, looking out the window, not even sparing a glance at Yuting. Gu Yuting kept trying to find things to talk about. "I heard you're about to open an art exhibition. Is there anything I can do to help?" Looking at the crowd passing by outside, I suddenly felt adrift. Sometimes this world feels so vast that one's tiny existence could be forgotten. There are also times when I wonder if I truly exist at all. Though lost in my own thoughts, I didn't forget to answer her. No need, my voice carried a touch of coldness. Gu Yuting was momentarily flustered, but she tentatively looked for other topics to discuss. I only responded indifferently with a few words for the sake of it. Finally, we arrived at the restaurant. Before getting out, I turned to look at Yuting. "Yuting, a promise isn't just something to be said. If you want me to give you another chance, you must prove it through actual actions. Show me your determination. Show me what you will do." Rather than just telling me, "Do you understand?" Yuting was stunned, Haoming. After 7 years of affection, I don't want it to end in such ambiguity either. I hope you won't disappoint me again. After saying that, I unfastened my seatbelt and got out of the car. During the banquet between the two families, the matter of the wedding was an unavoidable topic of conversation. Before, it was because Haoming was still studying abroad, Now that he's returned home, perhaps we should choose an auspicious date to hold the wedding. I think that's a great idea. Indeed, in the past, the two of you were separated by distance. Now that you are reunited, it's time to settle the plans for your lifelong commitment, right? They aren't young anymore. The age to start a family. Father Gu turned to look at the two of them. What do you two think? I pursed my lips and said softly, I think. It's still a bit early. The word early hadn't even fully left my mouth, for it was immediately cut off by Yue Ting. We will follow the wishes of our parents and uncles. Jiang Haoming glanced at Yue Ting. Yue Ting's face was beaming with a smile. She reached her hand under the table and gripped mine tightly. I tried to pull my hand away, but I couldn't break free. I frowned, but in the end, I didn't deny anything. Seeing that I didn't voice any opposition to the wedding, Yue Ting couldn't hide her delight. Finally, after all these days, on her lips, the most genuine smile appeared. The elders of both families looked at the two youngsters, one shyly bowing their head, the other looking at the partner with an infatuated smile. Everyone in the family burst into happy laughter. And so they continued to discuss the wedding arrangements. I see a few very good dates next month. Next month seems a bit rushed. I'm afraid everything won't be prepared in time. True, then how about July? July seems fine. The weather will be very beautiful as well. I just lowered my head and ate in silence. Till the moment I was driven home, I didn't pay any attention to the exact date and time the two families had decided on. The plans discussed by the two families were not kept secret. Before long, the news had spread everywhere. Shen Tangning was sitting alone, drinking in a private room. She knew her mood right now was very bad, but she didn't want to restrain herself anymore. She just wanted to indulge herself for once. When Su Qin entered the room and saw Tangning sitting alone, drowning her sorrows, he couldn't help but be surprised. Hey Ning, what's wrong with you? Shen Tangning's lips curled into a bitter smile. Right? What indeed was wrong with her? Jiang Haoming and Gu Yueting were about to get married. As a close friend of both of them, shouldn't she be feeling happy? However, Shen Tangning didn't feel even a spark of joy. In fact, in her mind at this moment was filled with images of times she spent alone with Haoming. Every gentle moment kept coming back. Tangming knew her feelings for him were wrong. She wasn't even sure when these thoughts had even begun to sprout. Was it before he went abroad or after he returned? Tangming didn't know, and she couldn't suppress it either. By the time she snapped back to reality, her heart had already begun to ache sharply. Just because of the news that Jiang Haoming was getting married. Noticing the obvious abnormality, Su Qin couldn't help but speak up. What exactly is going on with you? You look like you've just been heartbroken. Shen Tangning remained silent, not denying it at all. Su Qin was about to tease her, but suddenly realized something. She jumped back a step in alarm, looking at Tangning as if she were a monster. Holy crap. No way. Are you really heartbroken? Since when? With whom? Do I know them? Did you dump them or did they dump you? Shen Tangning's lips curled in self-mockery. Dumped? Never even started, so where would the chance to dump each other even come from? From the very beginning, she never stood a single chance. Thinking of that time, Jiang Haoming held her. Tangning tilted her head back and drained another glass of wine. Su Qin saw the situation starting to spiral out of control and hurriedly snatched the glass from her friend's hand. Hey now, let's talk this out slowly. How are we supposed to help if you don't say anything? What's the point of just sitting here drowning your sorrows? When there was no more wine to drink, Tangming could only lower her head in silence. Seeing this, Su Qin gave a light sigh. She decided to find a way to distract her, so she casually asked a question. Haoming and Yueting are getting married soon. Have you heard the news yet? I really didn't expect Haoming not to hold a grudge. I remember that while he's a kind person, he's always lived by very strict principles. The things Yueting did were totally uncool, yet he forgave her so easily. Hey, waiting forever and still no reply. Su Qin didn't get an answer from her friend. She turned to look at Tangming and saw that her complexion was getting worse by the second. Suddenly, a crazy thought flashed through her mind, and she blurted it out immediately. The person you mentioned. Couldn't be Jiang Haoming, right? Shen Tangning didn't say a word to refute it. After 3 seconds of suffocating silence, Su Qin jumped up. What? It's really Jiang Haoming. Since when? How did I not know about this? When did you two get involved? Su Qin scratched her head in frustration. Then she refuted her own thought. Wait, that's not right. Haoming has been abroad for the past few years, and you wouldn't even go away for business trips. There's no way the two of you could have developed feelings. It's obvious Haoming loves Yueting so deeply, and he even considers you a good friend. He would never cross that delicate line, unless... Su Qin turned around, staring at Tangming, who had now lifted her head. She stated with absolute certainty, it's unrequited love. Shen Tangming remained silent, not denying a single word. Su Qin irritably turned and kicked a trash can hard, letting out an annoyed curse. Hey Ning, their wedding date is set. It's in July. In July, they'll officially be under one roof. What do you plan to do now? Shen Tangming picked up her glass again and drained it. This time, Su Qin didn't stop her. Su Qin stepped closer and sat down beside her best friend, sighing deeply. Ning, Just drink, but after today you have to let go. Tangming kept pouring glass after glass. It seemed as if by getting wasted, all this pain would vanish, and those harsh realities would no longer be true. Suchin sighed heavily, sitting by her side, doing her best to comfort her. At first, she advised her to let go, but the more she spoke, the further the story wandered. You shouldn't be too sad. After all, the two of them aren't officially married yet. Who knows, maybe one day Yueting will act up again and sneak off to find that Song Jingxing guy. By then, Haoming definitely won't forgive her again. You just haven't seen it. These past few days, Yueting has been fawning all over him. It's nauseating to watch. If she knew it would be like this, she shouldn't have messed around. Suchin continued to ramble on. Hey Ming, look at all the unethical things Yueting has done. Everything was fine with Haoming, but she wasn't satisfied. She just had to go and tangle with that Song guy. Personally, I don't see any resemblance between Song Jingxing and Haoming. Alright, fine, in terms of aura, there are some similarities. But as soon as Haoming stands there, the night and day difference becomes painfully obvious. I really don't understand what's inside Yuting's head. Amid Suchin's endless grumbling, Shen Tangning finally drank herself into a stupor. Suchin gave a small sigh and began the task of escorting this boss back home. After managing to toss her into her room in the apartment, Suchin gently patted Tangning's cheek. Xiaoning, you can take care of yourself, right? I'm heading home now. Call me if anything happens. If you're still feeling down, then we'll go out drinking again tomorrow. Because she knew Tangming's personality when drunk, she never caused a scene or made a mess, but would just silently fall asleep in one go, so Suchin felt safe leaving her there and going home. In the middle of the night, Tangning woke up thirsty and groggy. In her daze, she found her phone, and for some reason, she dialed Jiang Haoming's number. At that time, I was already deep in sleep, but as soon as the phone vibrated, my eyes snapped open. The system, witnessing this, couldn't help but ask, "Host, weren't you fast asleep?" I curled my lips slightly, saying nothing. Picking up the phone and seeing Shen Tangning's name, I raised an eyebrow with interest. Then I lay back down as if nothing had happened. Waiting until the call was about to auto-disconnect, I finally answered. "Hello?" My voice carried a trace of sleepiness and a hint of annoyance at being woken up in the middle of the night. "Haoming, I want to see you." I pretended to be surprised and asked back, "Oh, Ning, what time is it? Why aren't you asleep yet?" "Jiang Haoming, I really want to see you." Shen Tangning on the other end of the line kept whispering, repeating that same sentence over and over. I acted as if I only now realized something was wrong. My voice became much more alert. "Where are you? I can tell you're not in a good state at all. Let me come see you. Where are you now?" When I heard her say she was at her apartment, I hurriedly replied, all right, just stay there and don't go anywhere. I'll be there right now." After hanging up, I unhurriedly got out of bed. My face was completely devoid of any expression. The system was completely speechless at this point. It had just witnessed its host shift tones repeatedly, yet his actual attitude remained as calm as ever. That unflappable expression truly earned its respect. By the time I reached Shen Tangning's apartment, it was already past 4 in the morning. Fortunately, Tangning had given me a key before, so I didn't have to worry about not being able to wake her up. To get inside. Entering, I went straight toward the bedroom. Opening the door, I saw the bed was empty. No one was there. I frowned slightly, scanning the room, and saw Tangning sitting on the floor beside the bed. Her small figure was almost entirely hidden by the bed frame. I almost didn't recognize her. Jiang Haoming stepped forward and knelt before Tangning. Seeing that she had leaned against the bed and fallen asleep, I gently reached out to touch her cheek. Perhaps because I had just come in from the cold wind, my hand felt icy cold. The moment I touched her, Tangning woke up immediately. "Haoming, you're here." I nodded slightly. "Why are you sleeping on the floor like this?" Tangming was still tipsy. "You told me not to go anywhere. I was afraid you wouldn't find me, so I just sat here the whole time." I raised an eyebrow slightly. Her submissiveness suddenly made my heart waver a bit. I couldn't help but gently stroke her hair, as if I were soothing a pet of mine. It seemed Tangning also sensed that affection. A happy smile lightly graced her lips, looking even more adorable and gentle. "Go lie down on the bed, stand up now." I helped her to her feet. Seeing Tangning settle comfortably on the bed, I sat down by the bedside and began using a sweet tone. "Why did you let yourself get so drunk?" Tangming was like a child being questioned by a teacher, obediently pouring out all her secret thoughts. "Because I felt so sad." "What happened to make you this sad?" You're about to get married." Tangming gripped my hand tightly. Her sparkling eyes looked at me infatuatedly. "Haoming, please don't get married, okay? Yueting isn't good for you." I let out a secret laugh, feeling as if the fish had finally started to bite the hook. "Why?" "I think she's fine." "She's not," Tangning argued hurriedly. "She has someone else. She treats another man well. Haoming don't want her anymore. Let's just ignore her. She has someone else. Let's not care about her anymore. Just the two of us together, okay?" I burst out laughing. "That's right. She has someone else. But didn't you yourself once stand by their side? If you had been willing to protect me from the start, then things wouldn't have come to this point. Tanning seemed to be too sleepy, kept mumbling, "She's not good. Don't marry her." And then she drifted into a deep sleep. I intended to pull my hand back, but found her grip was too tight to escape. I suddenly felt a bit of suspicion. Could Shen Tangning be faking her drunkenness? "Hey, system, do you think she's acting?" System immediately scanned her vital signs, then hurriedly replied, "Not at all. Host, she is truly wasted." I looked at my hand being held tight, then looked at the beautiful fish that had completely taken the bait. Giving a triumphant smile, I decided to deal her one more blow. So I set the phone aside, gently lifted the blanket and lay down beside Tang Ming. Seemingly sensing the warmth drawing closer, Tang Ming immediately snuggled in and hugged me tightly. She held me firmly, not letting go, and slept soundly and contentedly. Early the next morning, Shen Tanging woke up in a daze. As soon as her hand moved, she felt something was wrong. Why did she feel like she was hugging someone? She startled and snapped her eyes open. Hitting Tang Ming's sight was the dark hair of a man. She was stunned, her eyes wide with shock. Her mind right now was an unspeakable mess. Silently cursing Su Qin 10,000 times in her heart. Was Su Qin crazy, daring to put a man in her bed? Tang Ming just thought about the fact that she had hugged a complete stranger all night long. A feeling of disgust suddenly welled up. Her heart was filled with repulsion. She intended to push the person beside her away immediately. Her other hand fumbled for her phone, to call and give Su Qin a piece of her mind. However, Tang Ming suddenly froze when she saw the clothes in the bag placed on the nightstand. They looked incredibly familiar. Wasn't that Jiang Haoming's stuff? Tang Ming couldn't believe her eyes. She stared blankly at the man lying beside her. The faint scent drifting from those locks of hair was exactly like Haoming's familiar fragrance. On the other end of the line, Su Qin answered very quickly. Hearing the pickup, she loudly called, "Ming, you're awake. Do you feel uncomfortable anywhere?" Luckily, you were quiet as a mouse while you were drunk. As if the noise had disturbed his sleep, the person in her arms suddenly shifted slightly, turning his face toward her and snuggling deeper into the blanket. Witnessing this scene, Tang Ming felt as if her heart was about to stop beating. "Ming, I'm telling you, you shouldn't be too grieved either." Hearing Su Qin's voice while looking at my face, which was now nestled right in her arms, Tang Ming hurriedly hung up the phone instantly, ending Su Qin's call with a click. On the other side, Su Qin was about to take advantage of her newfound sobriety to offer more advice, yet she was hung up on mercilessly. Su Qin was bewildered, not understanding what was happening. Did something happen? So she called back again. Tang Ming was still staring blankly at me, and the phone vibrated once more. She quickly silenced the call. Seeing it was Su Qin calling, she frowned and composed a message. "Don't bother me." After sending it, she immediately powered off her phone. Then she set it aside. Tang Ming just looked at me without blinking. Seeing that I hadn't been woken by the noise, she let out a faint, contented smile. Then she also lay down, leaning toward me. Gazing at my peaceful face while I slept, her heart was suddenly filled with an indescribable happiness. When I woke up, Shen Tangning was no longer in the room. When I got up to go to the bathroom, I saw that Tangning had already prepared new toiletries for me. I smiled slightly, finished freshening up, and walked out, and saw her busy cooking breakfast in the kitchen. "Does your head still hurt?" Shen Tangning had absolutely no memory of what happened last night. Though she didn't know why I appear here, she was actually feeling very happy. A bright smile was on her lips as she woke up to prepare food. Hearing my voice, she immediately turned her head. Haoming. Lifting my head, I immediately caught Shen Tangning's radiant, sparkling gaze. I raised an eyebrow and replied, "It hurts a little. Did I bother you a lot last night?" Hearing this was enough to know that Shen Tangning didn't have a shred of memory left. So I didn't say anything more, just shook my head. "No, just don't drink so much wine next time. It's not good for your health." Seeing that I didn't mention anything about last night, Tangning felt a momentary pang of disappointment. She didn't dwell on it too much. She just pointed toward the dining table. "Have a seat first. Breakfast is almost ready." I obediently sat down at the table. My expression was still perfectly calm, as if nothing had happened. Keeping the same old tone of voice, I continued to chat with Tangning. "Who were you drinking with last night? Why did they drop you off and then just leave you like that?" Hearing this, Tangning felt a secret sense of regret in her heart for not calling Su Qin just now to clarify the situation. "No, it's because last night Su Qin saw you and then..." I shook my head, feigning confusion. "Not at all. Yesterday when I arrived, I only saw you." Tangning frowned, trying to piece together yesterday's memories, while I continued the unfinished story on the other side. "I thought something terrible had happened to you. Calling me at such a late hour, you gave me quite a scare, you know." A wave of warmth washed over Shen Tangming's heart. She felt herself becoming deeply moved. In other words, last night when she reached out to Jiang Haoming, the moment he heard her voice, he rushed to her side. I said a few things and didn't bring up last night again. I also refrained from asking why she was lying there next to me. She ate her breakfast in silence. She casually replied to the messages she had missed since yesterday. Shen Tangming stepped closer. As she placed a glass of warm milk before me, her eyes accidentally caught the name on my chat screen. It was Gu Yueting. Shen Tangming's bright mood vanished in an instant. She sat down across from me, her gaze heavy. She watched as I ate while responding to messages. She couldn't help but ask, "Are you two really going through with the wedding, Oppa?" I froze. Shen Tangming immediately sensed the shift in the air. She hurriedly tried to explain herself. "I didn't mean to say it's a bad thing. I just feel like it might be a bit too soon. Do your parents know about her and Song Jingxing?" I shook my head slowly. Shen Tangming let out a long sigh. "Then you need to talk to her, Oppa. She can't keep in contact with Song Jingxing anymore." I looked up at Shen Tangming. My eyes were clouded with complex emotions. After a long, heavy silence, I finally spoke. She gave me her promise. She said she would cut all ties with Song Jingxing. The words were on the tip of Shen Tangming's tongue. Never fully trust a woman's words. But she held back, fearing it would break my heart. I lowered my head, my voice coming out slow and weary. "To be honest, I don't even know anymore whether I should actually marry her or not." Shen Tangming's eyes flickered with a sudden hope. She looked up at me, waiting. I let out a heavy sigh. What she did. It's just so hard for me to accept. She claims she did it because she loves me. But if someone truly loves another, how could they possibly do something like that? I feel like my trust in Gu Yueting has completely shattered. But after 7 long years of history, I just can't let go of everything, Tangming. I'm so torn. Shen Tangming gently advised, "If you're feeling this hesitant, Appa, maybe you should just postpone the wedding for now. See how she acts, then decide what's next." I shook my head. Our parents have already settled everything. If I suggest a delay now, they would be devastated. Shen Tangming lowered her head. She tried to hide the bitter disappointment in her eyes. However, I continued. "I've decided to give her one more chance. One last chance for what we had. If she breaks my trust again, then I will never, ever forgive her." As Shen Tangming heard those words, she stared down at the milk in front of her. A shadow of darkness flickered deep within her gaze. After leaving Shen Tangming's apartment, I went back to preparing for my art exhibition. The collection for the display was nearly complete. I had 42 of my own paintings ready. On top of that, there were over 10 world-renowned masterpieces. A few of them were exceptionally rare treasures, the kind of art you only ever see on the news. They had been provided by Gu Yueting and Xia Qianshu. I accepted them all without the slightest hesitation. Then, I hired a small army of bodyguards to stand watch. In the days leading up to the opening, I met with Xia Qianshu several more times, using the excuse of seeking her expertise on hosting such an event. Under the guise of business, our interactions were laced with flirtation. I didn't expect Xia Qianshu to be like Shen Tangming, drowning her sorrows in alcohol over me. But I could tell the time was finally ripe. Just needed to add one more spark next time. And so, amidst those frantic, busy days, the art exhibition finally opened its doors. Between my own rising fame and the allure of those legendary masterpieces on display, it was a sensation. Word had also leaked out that Xia Qianshu, Gu Yueting, and the others would be attending. As a result, my exhibition was packed to capacity. Even after reaching the limit, a massive crowd waited outside for someone to leave, hoping to snag a spot inside. I moved through the crowd, playing the part of the gracious host, while also seizing the opportunity to network with true connoisseurs of the art world. I was non-stop busy throughout the entire event. When Gu Yueting finally arrived, she was carrying a bouquet and a gift. "Congratulations. The exhibition is a huge success. You're one step closer to your dream now." A gentle, supportive smile graced Gu Yuting's face. She handed the flowers and the gift to me. I took them and caught their scent with a brief nod. Then, I passed the bouquet to an assistant nearby, told him to put them away for me. I looked up at Gu Yuting. "Thank you." Of course, I knew her angle. The original owner's dream was to be a world-renowned artist, holding exhibitions in every corner of the globe, so that more people could witness the beauty of his creations. Gu Yuting stayed glued to my side from the moment she arrived. Though many in our social circle were aware that we were soon to be married. However, most guests were only there for the art. Without the media presence, they wouldn't have known who we were. And so this tableau, the talented artist and his beautiful fiancée, was captured by every lens. When Xia Qianshu finally made her entrance, she walked right into this very scene. She looked up, and an eyesore of a sight met her gaze. A few stray locks of hair had fallen across my forehead. Gu Yueting noticed it, reached out with effortless intimacy. She gently tucked the hair behind my ear. Xia Qianshu stood frozen, bouquet in hand. She suddenly recalled her brother calling her just a few days ago, talking about how his daughter was about to get married. The corner of Xia Qianshu's mouth tightened. Her expression turned icy as she began to walk toward us. The assistant thought the CEO's visit to the exhibition was just a momentary whim, but seeing her buy both flowers and a gift, the assistant was left in utter disbelief. Then she saw my name emblazoned on the exhibition sign. Suddenly, everything made perfect sense to her. She watched as her boss strode toward me. The assistant followed closely behind. As they arrived, she noticed something very odd. This woman standing so close to Jiang Haoming. Isn't she the CEO's own niece? And why on earth does she look so incredibly intimate with him? While the assistant was still reeling in confusion, Gu Yuting spoke up. "Auntie, what are you doing here?" Gu Yuting was genuinely surprised to see Xia Qianshui. Xia Qianshui was only a few years older than her. They had been very close when they were children. But as Xia Qianshui's brilliance began to shine, Gu Yuting had started to feel eclipsed. With time, their bond had inevitably faded. Xia Qianshui gave a slight nod, her gaze fixed solely on me. She saw a flicker of awkwardness pass through my eyes. "It seems you didn't realize I was Gu Yuting's aunt. Well, now that you know. What do you plan to do?" With that thought, Xia Qianshui held out the bouquet of flowers. "Congratulations." I looked at the vibrant red roses. I was taken aback, but then my eyes filled with genuine delight. Seeing my reaction, the suffocating tension in Xia Qianshui's chest eased slightly. "I wish your exhibition every success." I tilted my head and smiled warmly at her. "Thank you, Auntie." Gu Yuting stood right there. Witnessing this, her gaze bounced suspiciously between us. "Auntie, you two know each other?" Xia Qianshui replied curtly. "Yes." My expression remained perfectly composed. That same smile stayed on my face. My gaze towards Xia Qianshui held a hint of intense heat. Xia Qianshui caught my look. The darkness on her face softened for a fleeting moment. The corners of her lips curled up slightly. But the second she saw Gu Yuting standing there, her smile vanished instantly. Gu Yuting looked at me with wide, shocked eyes. Her gaze was riddled with suspicion. But I didn't spare her a single glance. I didn't even notice her questioning look. And frankly, I couldn't have cared less. Left without an answer, she felt a pang of neglect, but she kept her composure. Xia Qianshu surveyed the artworks on the walls. She said with forced casualness, "Give me a tour." I nodded. "Of course, this way." I gestured to the left and began to walk. Turned back to Gu Yuting. "Feel free to look around on your own first." Xia Qianshu didn't even acknowledge Gu Yuting. She simply followed in my footsteps. As we walked, I explained the origin of each piece to her, sharing the stories woven into every canvas. When we reached the center of the hall, Xia Qianshu came to a sudden halt. She tilted her head toward the very heart of the room. A massive crowd had gathered around one specific painting. It was the starry sky I had finished at the resort. I noticed her standing still. I looked at her curious as she walked toward that painting. A faint smirk played on my lips. I stood my ground, waiting for her to get closer. Finally, she read the description placed beside it. Her heart skipped a beat. She turned her head to look at me. I was still standing there, watching her with a smile. In this very moment, it felt as if the entire world had faded away, leaving only the two of them. Two souls in perfect, silent understanding, like two missing pieces finally finding their perfect fit. I watched as Xia Qianshu strode toward me with purpose. I was momentarily taken aback, and then she suddenly seized my hand in a firm grip. She leaned close to my ear and whispered, "Where's the lounge?" I barely pointed the way before she was dragging me off. The moment we stepped into the private room, Qianshu pinned me against the door. She threw her arms around my waist, pressing our bodies together, until there wasn't a single inch of space left between us. Does that painting mean what I think it means? Pinned against the wood, I was forced to look directly into her eyes. Hearing her question, I let out a low, teasing chuckle. "And what exactly is it that you think, Auntie?" Xia Qianshu saw the playful glint in my eyes. Her lips curled into a smirk. "You did this on purpose." I laughed. "I have no idea what you're talking about, Auntie." Xia Qianshu tilted her head, leaning in closer still. "You'll find out soon enough." Without another word, she pressed her lips against mine. I tried to speak, but my words were swallowed whole. My face was a mask of pure shock. Just as I was about to push her away, she pulled me into an even tighter embrace. Xia Qianshu was dangerously good at this. Within mere seconds, my breathing began to hitch, turning heavy and ragged. My legs felt like they were turning to lead. I had to rely entirely on her strength to keep from collapsing. The room was thick with a heavy, suffocating tension. Outside, the gallery was filled with the polite chatter of guests. But inside, the air was burning with a fierce, private fire. Gu Yuting watched as I disappeared with her aunt. She knit her brows in a small frown. She took a determined step forward. She was about to follow when a hand gripped her shoulder. She turned to see Shen Tangning and Su Qin standing there. "What are you two doing here?" Su Qin arched an eyebrow. What's that supposed to mean? Jiang Haoming is opening his own art exhibition. Of course we had to come and show our support. I heard there's even going to be an auction later. Gu Yueting nodded. He's planning to auction off a few pieces. All the proceeds will go to children in the impoverished highlands, to help them stay in school. Su Qin nodded in approval. That's actually a wonderful thing. I think I'll try to bid on a painting for myself later. Shen Tangning's eyes scanned the exhibition hall restlessly. She wasn't even listening to their conversation. When she realized I was nowhere to be found, she turned sharply to Gu Yuting. Where is Jiang Haoming? At the mention of his name, Gu Yuting's brow furrowed. He went off that way with my aunt. Shen Tangning's eyebrows shot up. Your aunt? Su Qin was equally shocked. You mean Xia Qianshu? Gu Yuting gave a slow nod. Then she voiced her own lingering doubt. I have no idea how Jiang Haoming even knows her. Shen Tanning was just as baffled. Su Qin was the first to realize. Isn't it obvious? It must be about the investment. Both women turned their full attention to her. Su Qin suddenly felt a wave of inexplicable guilt. She nervously rubbed her nose. Why was she the one feeling guilty? When it was Shen Tangning who had feelings for him, she felt so incredibly out of place. In contrast, Shen Tangning remained perfectly still and expressionless. Realizing they were both waiting for her to continue, Su Qin swallowed her nerves and spoke. Well, I heard through the grapevine that the people who invested in Jiang Haoming's exhibition, all major business partners of Xia Qianshu, and then there are those paintings over there. Su Qin pointed to the masterpieces surrounded by crowds. Aren't those the ones Xia Qianshu won at those high-profile auctions a while back? If they're being shown here, then Jiang Haoming must have reached out to borrow them. Given your family's connection, there's no way Xia Qianshu would say no. So it's only natural that he give her special treatment as a host. She's his biggest investor, after all. Later, word of that conversation eventually reached my ears, and I made sure to use it to tease Xia Qianshu mercilessly. The result was her punishing me for my cheekiness. As the auction for the second half of the event kicked off, I had already parted ways with Xia Qianshu. Took to the stage to share a few words. Then I handed the spotlight over to the auctioneer. Nearly every painting sold for an impressive price. I had already arranged everything with the charities beforehand. The donations were processed right there on the spot. This move instantly elevated the status of the entire exhibition. For a multitude of reasons, the media had already pushed me to the top of the search rankings, gaining the adoration and fascination of countless new fans. What's truly worth mentioning is the Starry Sky painting titled Nan Meng. It was snatched up by Xia Qianshu for an astronomical sum. I hadn't expected Gu Yueting to set her sights on the same piece. She had even entered the bidding war a few times. She even went as far as to send a secret text, begging her aunt to let her have it. But unfortunately for her, Xia Qianshu was never going to let that painting, a piece so uniquely hers, fall into anyone else's hands. I wasn't surprised by the outcome at all. Xia Qianshu had always been a woman of absolute resolve, and her possessiveness knew no bounds. The exhibition ended, and the moment I returned home, a message from Xia Qianshu popped up on my screen. Cancel the engagement with Gu Yuting. The real drama was only just beginning. A little bit of possessiveness was nothing compared to what was coming. I was playing for much higher stakes than that. Xia Qianshu was still completely in the dark. After she sent that text to me, Xia Qianshu was a bundle of nerves. The minutes ticked by without a reply. She knit her brows in frustration. Then a thought suddenly occurred to her. I must have been completely drained from the exhibition. Maybe I was already fast asleep, lost in dreams. She decided not to worry about it any further. Having rationalized it, Xia Qianshu threw herself back into her work. By the time she had finished everything, she realized several days had slipped away, and I still hadn't replied to her message. Mid-June arrived before she knew it. The day of my wedding to Gu Yueting was now just around the corner. Xia Qianshu stared at the message she had sent. Still no answer, nothing but silence. Her brows knit together in a sharp line. She had made a quick trip home a few days ago. She had bumped into her brother there. He didn't seem the least bit upset about any canceled engagement. On the contrary, he was practically glowing with the joy of a proud father. Snap. The pencil in Xia Qianshu's hand broke in two. She replayed her brother's words in her mind, just as she was leaving. Your niece is getting married soon. Shouldn't you start thinking about yourself too? At the last party I attended, I met a few very promising young men. Let me show you some photos. Xia Qianshu stared out the floor-to-ceiling window. Her eyes narrowed to thin, dangerous slits. Jiang Haoming hadn't canceled the engagement at all. Not only had he kept it, but he was actually going through with the marriage. As the realization hit, Xia Qianshu's face turned thunderous. What were all those moments between us supposed to be then? She turned to look at the painting hanging in her office. She replayed every single memory of her time with me. Was it all just a delusion? Was she the only one who felt this? When her assistant knocked and entered, the atmosphere was so thick, She barely dared to breathe. The CEO had been in a terrifyingly dark mood lately. She didn't dare say a word more than necessary. However, the assistant had a theory. Her boss must have had a massive fallout with Jiang Haoming. But on the day they returned from his exhibition, she had been radiant, practically glowing with happiness. Barely any time had passed since then. Why was she suddenly so despondent? The assistant placed an invitation on the desk. "Ma'am, this invitation arrived from your brother. He said he's shopping nearby, so he couldn't come up." The assistant spoke with a hint of trepidation. She couldn't resist stealing a quick glance. She knew her boss brother was already quite advanced in age. What could this invitation possibly be for? Was he trying to trick her into another blind date? At the thought of her boss going on a blind date, the assistant's fear began to dissipate. If her boss was truly angry with Jiang Haoming, she might actually agree to the date this time. After all, women often use other men to make the man they truly want jealous. She had seen this drama play out 1,000 times. Sha Qianshu stared at the card on her desk. The envelope was sealed with a bright, glaring red joy character. Sha Qianshu already had a sinking feeling, but she clung to the desperate hope that it wasn't what she thought. With a dark expression, she tore open the invitation. Sure enough, it was a wedding invitation for Jiang Haoming and Gu Yueting. The assistant watched her boss' reaction. Her face had become truly terrifying to behold. The assistant felt a surge of pure panic. She knew the CEO was beyond mere anger. This was something far more explosive than rage. She stole a quick peek at the card. It was indeed a formal announcement of a marriage, and the groom's name was unmistakable. Jiang Haoming. Jiang Haoming? She stared at her boss in disbelief. Is this the same Jiang Haoming she knew? The assistant was utterly bewildered. Wasn't he supposed to be dating the CEO? How could he suddenly be getting married like this? Why was her own brother sending this to her? Looking at her boss' face, a theory began to form. Did she offend him so deeply that he decided to marry someone else out of spite? The assistant was inventing a dozen tragic backstories, but Sha Qianshu didn't have room in her mind for any of it. She snatched the card, stood up, and bolted for the parking lot. She dialed my number as she sped through the streets. "Hello?" My voice on the other end was perfectly calm. The tone hadn't changed a bit, exactly as it had been in all our previous calls, as if he weren't a man about to walk down the aisle. "Where are you?" A slight smirk touched my lips. "At my apartment." Sha Qianshu's voice was a low growl. "Stay right there." She hung up before I could say another word. Sha Qianshu floored it, heading straight for my place. I own quite a few properties myself, and it wasn't as if I spent every waking moment at my parents' house. Besides, the Gu family must be out delivering invitations now. Once she received hers, it was almost certain that Sha Qianshu would come looking for me. That's why I had chosen to stay at my private apartment. Less than 30 minutes later, Sha Qianshu was at my door. I had barely unlocked it when my wrist was seized in a crushing grip. The next thing I knew, I was slammed against the back of the door. "I told you to cancel the engagement with Gu Yueting. Did you not receive my message?" One of her hands pinned my wrist firmly, while the other brandished the wedding invitation in my face. "Is this your answer to my demand?" Aside from the initial moment of surprise, there wasn't a trace of fear in my eyes. I looked at the woman before me, her eyes red with fury. I still managed to smile. "This engagement isn't so easily broken. We've been promised to each other for so long. If I cancel it the second I get back, so you've chosen to submit instead. You're just going to obediently marry Gu Yueting." Sha Qianshu felt like she was about to explode with rage. What kind of pathetic excuse was that? Not easily broken? It's just an engagement. There's nothing that can't be canceled. When you went abroad, Yuting's father was already unhappy with you. If I call it off the moment I return, can you imagine the level of his fury? I replied with a cool indifference, intentionally avoiding the heart of the matter. I didn't show even a flicker of fear toward her. Sha Qianshu's chest felt like it was ready to burst. This man, every single feature of his was exactly what she adored, especially those delicate lips of his. She had tasted them before, and they were so incredibly soft. She was utterly obsessed with them. But those very lips she craved were speaking words that threatened to drive her to the edge of insanity. "If you find it too difficult to say, then I'll be the one to tell them." I quickly caught her. "Don't. I don't want to deal with the inevitable scandal." Sha Qianshu finally saw the truth of the situation. She forced herself to regain a semblance of calm. Her eyes were locked onto mine, unblinking. She stepped even closer, invading my space. "Jiang Haoming, do you actually want to cancel this engagement or not?" I wiped the smile from my face and met her gaze in silence. We stared at each other for an eternity in the stifling quiet. Sha Qianshu gave a slow nod, an icy smile touching her lips. "I see. It was just my own foolish delusion after all." With those words, she released her grip on me. Then she opened the door and walked outside. When she reached her car, Sha Qianshu finally couldn't hold it in anymore. She kicked her car tire hard. Sha Qianshu's assistant noticed that. Ever since the boss ran out with that wedding invitation, after she returned, her expression had become even more gloomy. The atmosphere around her was even heavier than before. She no longer looked like a withered plant. She was like a suppressed volcano about to erupt. The assistant could feel that her boss was about to explode. Sha Qianshu called out to the assistant who was about to leave. Go investigate someone for me. The assistant froze. Before even turning around, she heard those words and immediately widened her eyes in shock. Then she put on a normal face and turned back, silently waiting for order. But inside, she was screaming. A massive scoop was calling her name. When she saw that the person to be investigated was her boss, Gu Yu, the assistant was even more stunned. Who knows, maybe on July 18th, the boss might actually go and snatch the groom. Thus, the assistant conducted an extremely meticulous investigation. She found clues very quickly. Boss, this is Miss Gus' situation after Mr. Jiang went abroad. Miss Gus' situation. Please take a look. Sha Qianshu opened the folder. The first page was a photo of me and Gu Yueting together. She knit her brows tightly. She looked at my bright, smiling face and then flipped the page. When she saw a photo of a strange man, Sha Qianshu frowned again. Seeing this, the assistant standing nearby hurriedly explained, "This is the lover kept by Ms. Gu after Mr. Jiang went abroad." Sha Qianshu turned to the assistant. "What did you say?" The assistant understood her boss' shock. When she first dug up this news, she had been utterly astounded as well. So she continued to explain. "This is the man Ms. Gu keeps. His name is Song Jingxing. He's a university student from a single-parent family. His mother is currently hospitalized. Medical bills and other expenses are all paid by Ms. Gu. Furthermore, Ms. Gu even gave Song Jingxing an apartment, even if it's not explicitly stated. Who wouldn't know this is a kept lover? Moreover, when Mr. Jiang went abroad, he hadn't broken up with Ms. Gu yet. They are still engaged. If Ms. Gu doing this isn't keeping a lover, then is she just looking for a girlfriend?" Sha Qianshu flipped through the file, her eyes filled with rage and disbelief. This is the person he intended to marry. The assistant, seeing her boss' furious face, couldn't help but speak up. "But I think Mr. Jiang probably already knows about this." Sha Qianshu turned to look at her assistant again. Suppressing the discomfort of being stared at, the assistant explained, "Mr. Jiang is so intelligent. After he returned from abroad, whether it was organizing his art exhibition or doing anything else, he always came to you, not to Ms. Gu. That proves he doesn't rely on Ms. Gu that much. But they are fiancé and fiancée, and they had such deep feelings since their university days." The assistant wiped the sweat from her forehead, lowered her head, and continued. "That means there is a distance between Mr. Jiang and Ms. Gu. Also, during the last art exhibition, you saw it with your own eyes. Ms. Gu was always very submissive to Mr. Jiang. Even when he was cold to her, she didn't get angry at all. It's like she's in a state of seeking atonement." Seeing her boss' expression soften, she secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Actually, she wanted to say more, that she felt I was approaching the boss. Most likely. Precisely because I knew Ms. Gu was keeping someone else, and so I was deliberately seeking revenge. And her boss was just a tool for me to get back at Ms. Gu. Unfortunately, she didn't dare utter those words. Whether her boss had considered that, she didn't know and didn't want to know. Sha Qianshu looked at the folder in her hands. She frowned. After a long silence, she finally put the file away, only taking out a few photos. In the photos, Gu Yueting comforting Song Jingxing in front of a hospital room. Gu Yueting taking Song Jingxing shopping. Gu Yueting taking Song Jingxing to meet her friends. And even a photo of Gu Yueting returning to the apartment with Song Jingxing. Every single photo revealed their improper relationship. Sha Qianshu handed the photos to her assistant and told her to send them anonymously to him. The assistant was stunned. She took them and asked, "Send them to Mr. Jiang." Sha Qianshu leaned back in her chair and nodded. Then she closed her eyes, thinking to herself, "Give me one more chance. If he calls off the engagement with Gu Yueting because of this, then everything else, whether it exists or not, I can choose not to care about it." The assistant received the order and hurried off to carry it out. I was at home trying on my wedding suit when I received an anonymous package. I raised an eyebrow slightly. Shen Tangning was standing by my side, watching the man she loved wearing a suit for someone else. Her entire heart felt like it was bleeding. She saw that anonymous package. Shen Tangning frowned, worried it might be something bad. So she told me to step back a bit while she opened it. By the time she saw the photos inside, Shen Tangning's brows were knit even tighter. I was standing not far away. I saw that Shen Tangning's face looked troubled, but the tension from earlier had vanished. Thinking it probably wasn't anything dangerous, I walked over. "What is it?" Shen Tangning hurriedly covered the package. She didn't want me to see, so she said, "Don't look at it." I frowned and brushed her hand aside, then opened the package myself and saw the photos inside. Shen Tangning looked at Jiang Haoming in his wedding suit, sitting on the sofa, looking through each photo one by one. Her heart constricted with pity. She walked over to me and sat down. "Don't look anymore. I pulled out a photo from the middle and handed it to Shen Tang Ning. When Shen Tang Ning saw it, her eyes immediately filled with panic. She looked at me anxiously. In that photo, Gu Yu Ding was bringing Song Jingxing to a gathering with Shen Tangning's group. Shen Tangning was looking at Song Jingxing with a bright smile. It's not like that. It's really not. At that time, I leaned in slightly close to Shen Tangning's face, our breaths intermingling. Tangning, since I returned this time, I've always felt that you aren't just my friend anymore. You have someone else now. My words made her breath quicken, causing Shen Tangning's heart to skip a beat. She hurriedly tried to justify herself. No, it's not like that. I'm still yours. I didn't. I shook my head, feeling that I didn't want to hear any more. You should go home. You don't need to stay here to help me with the fitting anymore. A light sentence, yet it felt like pushing Shen Tangming into hell. She stood there in a daze. Hao Ming. I turned my face away, no longer looking at her. Please, let me be alone. Shen Tangming had no choice but to get up and leave. Before leaving, she said, if you meet me, please call me. No matter what I'm doing, I'll come immediately. After thinking for a moment, Shen Tangning added another sentence. In my heart, no one can ever replace you or take your place. After saying those words, Shen Tangning left. Except once she got home, she kept her eyes glued to her phone, just waiting for me to call her. As for me, the moment Shen Tangning left, I returned to normal. Looking at the photos in my hand, I was guessing who had sent them. Was it Song Jingxing or one of the young ladies it offended? Or perhaps Sha Qianshu? Wedding shop employee brought the suit in. Mr. Jiang, what do you think of this style? I looked up at the employee and said, let me try it on. As it turned out, it looked fantastic. I felt quite satisfied. Seeing this, the employees standing nearby started showering me with praise. Mr. Jiang, you look very handsome in this suit. Last month, when this was finished, the designer said it would be very difficult to pull off. Ordinary people would struggle to wear it well, but Mr. Jiang wears it beautifully. It's as if it was custom made just for you. The employee praised me for a long time before adding another point. This suit has never been sold before. Mr. Jiang, you could buy the rights from the designer. That way, it will be one of a kind. I looked at the employee with appreciation and then asked, is there a matching wedding dress for this? The employee nodded vigorously. Yes, of course. I brought it with me as well. Let me get it for you to take a look. It was a pure white wedding dress. On the chest, there was a pearl-encrusted flower. It looked incredibly unique and beautiful. Noticing the customer's satisfaction, the employee quickly added more. However, the young lady from earlier has a rather thin frame. This dress might be a bit loose for her. It will need some adjustments, but we can finish it very soon. I shook my head and said, no need, just take this one. The employee's lips twitched. He was debating whether to offer more advice, because if it didn't look good when worn, the responsibility might fall on their shoulders. Furthermore, the groom before him was so handsome. How could he bear to let such a beautiful man have an imperfect wedding? Just as he was about to speak, I spoke first. It's not a gift for her. No need for any alterations. The employee froze there, not yet having processed it. Then he heard another sentence. That's right, your company is handling the entire wedding plan, right? Yes. In that case, you will be the one in charge of my wedding. I'll speak with your superiors. The employee stood there stunned. He had never been solely in charge of a wedding before. Was this a promotion? My words, of course, carried weight. Very soon after, this employee, his name was Chu Yuan, became the person in charge of my wedding planning. Chu Yuan thought to himself, handsome guy must have a truly magnificent wedding hall. So he poured all his effort into the wedding venue. Rich people certainly don't lack money. He did whatever would make it most perfect. He went as luxurious as possible. Therefore, Chu Yuan worked himself to the bone at the site. When someone told him the bride needed to try on her dress, he simply arranged for 1 or 2 people to take care of it. He didn't go personally. Only later did he suddenly remember. Chu Yuan wondered, could it be that the bride didn't like the dress Mr. Jiang chose? After the person who handled the fitting returned, Chu Yuan specifically asked which dress the bride had chosen. Upon learning the bride chose a high-end navy blue gown, although Chu Yuan felt a bit of regret, he also thought that one suited her well, so he didn't give it any further thought. On the day of the wedding, I sent a text message to Sha Qianshu first. Sha Qianshu looked at the wedding dress on the table and the message I had sent. She smashed everything in her office that could be broken. The assistant stood nearby, trembling with fear, wondering if the boss had offended Mr. Jiang somehow. Otherwise, why would he send a wedding dress to her, and even insist that she must be present? Sha Qianshu looked at her assistant. Are you sure the photos were delivered? The assistant nodded. I'm certain, ma'am. There was no reaction from Mr. Jiang when they were first sent. Afterwards, I even hired a courier and specifically showed him Mr. Jiang's photo to ensure they were delivered directly into his hands. The courier only left after seeing him sign for it and open it. So, Mr. Jiang has definitely seen them. This made the assistant even more convinced. that Mr. Jiang had known about the situation all along. Seeing her boss' explosive rage, the assistant couldn't help but ask, "So, ma'am, you still plan to go to this wedding?" Sha Qianxue turned to her. "Of course I'm going. Why wouldn't I? Doesn't he want me there very badly?" The assistant nodded. "I understand. Then I'll go make the arrangements. I'll postpone your other schedules." On the wedding day, Chu Yuan was extremely nervous. He looked at the groom standing before him and couldn't help but take a deep breath. Even though he had met him before, he was still stunned by his beauty today. "Everything is ready. Follow me in a moment. I'll enter the hall first," Chu Yuan instructed me gently. Then, listening to the signal in his earpiece, he led me to wait at the entrance of the banquet hall. Chu Yuan looked at his watch and communicated over the radio that the groom was about to enter. 3, 2, 1. Open the doors. I slowly stepped into the center of the hall. My steps were rhythmic, following the background music. In front of me, a flower girl was scattering petals. As I walked, I heard the system's voice in my subconscious. "Host, what if the female lead shows up? Is the host really planning to marry the female lead? If I really were to marry?" I stood in the middle of the hall and turned my head slightly. I just happened to see Sha Qianxue sitting to my right, and Sha Qianxue was wearing the white dress I had sent her. She looked incredibly beautiful. A faint smile played on my lips. I don't know who was the first to be captivated by the groom's looks, but someone had to take a sharp breath. The sounds of admiration from several people were quite audible. The assistant sitting next to the boss also widened her eyes. Even though she had met Mr. Jiang before, she couldn't help but be stunned by this beauty. The assistant couldn't help but steal a few more glances. Then she realized something was wrong. She leaned close to her boss and whispered, "Director Sha, your outfit and Mr. Jiang's suit, they seem to be a matching set." "Look, ma'am," the assistant remembered that the dress on her boss had been brought by me. Sha Qianxue was stunned when she heard that. She then took a closer look at my suit. It truly seemed to be the counterpart to her dress. The pearls were symmetrically placed. The floral patterns were also synchronized. It was as if they were a pair. The assistant didn't quite understand, so she voiced her doubt. Could Mr. Jiang have brought the wrong one by mistake? Sha Qianxue looked up at me standing on the podium. By mistake? She didn't believe I could make such a mistake. If I were to say it wasn't intentional, Sha Qianxue wouldn't believe that either. Only Sha Qianxue wasn't sure what my purpose was. Sha Qianxue raised her head to stare at me on the stage. I wore a gentle smile, standing there with an elegant demeanor. I didn't seem to notice anything unusual at all. Seeing that she had no particular reaction, what on earth was he planning to do? Standing at the door and seeing that the groom had entered, Chu Yuan slightly bowed, intending to follow into the wedding hall. His gaze accidentally drifted. He saw a woman sitting nearby. His eyes widened. What attracted him wasn't the woman, of course, but the wedding dress she was wearing. That wedding dress. Wasn't it the one meant to match the groom's suit? Chu Yuan froze for a moment. My smile flashed through his mind, the way I smiled when I chose that dress that day. Then he thought of the bride, Gu Yuding, whom he had just seen earlier. He couldn't help but start speculating wildly. It couldn't be what he was thinking, right? While he was scaring himself, Chu Yuan heard a voice in his earpiece. "Please invite the bride onto the stage." It was time for the bride to enter the wedding hall. Chu Yuan turned his head to look toward the entrance. He had a bad premonition. Sure enough, the doors remained closed. Sure enough, he only saw me standing there still smiling. I didn't seem to be affected at all. Chu Yuan's heart beat faster and faster until he heard a scream in his earpiece. The bride has disappeared. On the contrary, Chu Yuan breathed a sigh of relief. He gave a low-voiced order, "Go find Miss Gu's father." Seeing that Gu Yueding still hadn't appeared, Mother Gu frowned with worry. Mother Gu stood up and looked in that direction impatiently. She asked Father Gu if something was wrong. He also frowned but remained firmly in his seat. It's probably just part of the script. Hearing that didn't make Mother Gu feel much more relieved. She kept her eyes glued to that direction, staring intently at that door. Her expression clearly showed tension and anxiety. About 10 minutes later, my parents also noticed something was wrong. Their expressions became quite unsightly. The looks they directed toward the Gu family were no longer friendly. Father Gu forced a smile, and quickly beckoned his younger sister, Sha Qianxue, to come over. "Go to the back and check. Why hasn't Yuding come out yet?" Sha Qianxue already felt something was strange. She glanced at me, and then nodded, heading toward the backstage area. The moment she stepped out of the hall, she heard the staff outside whispering, "The bride has run away. How could that be?" "I don't know. The dressing room is empty." "Haven't they been engaged for a long time? Why run away at a time like this?" "No idea. This is the first time I've ever seen a runaway bride. Poor Mr. Jiang." Sha Qianxue frowned and walked straight to the doctor's room. Indeed, there was no one in the room. She quickly dialed Gu Yueding's number, but no one picked up. The assistant followed her. "Boss, what should we do now?" Tianshu frowned and continued calling Gu Yueding. In the hall, the guests were becoming impatient. They whispered among themselves that this was a case of jilting at the altar. It seems so. I see everyone is looking for the bride. This isn't an arranged marriage for business. How could she do such a thing? The Gu family really has no sense of shame. If she didn't want to marry, wouldn't it have been better to say so earlier? Exactly. To make that young man lose face in front of everyone. The Jiang family is truly unlucky to be involved with the Gus. I listened to those rumors. Seeing that the time was ripe, I turned my head to look around. I happened to catch Chu Yuan's eye. I broke into a slight smile and beckoned him over with my finger. Chu Yuan was listening to reports in his earpiece, stating that the bride couldn't be found, and he saw me beckoning him. He looked around, seeing that only he was standing in this area, so he walked to the edge of the catwalk and climbed up. "Mr. Jiang, what's the matter?" I smiled gently. "Change the bride." Chu Yuan's eyes widened in astonishment. I patted his shoulder. "Remember the owner of that dress. Replace her with that person." Chu Yuan was stunned for a few seconds. While the air was filled with sympathy for Mr. Jian, he frowned slightly and then nodded to me. He turned and headed straight toward the dressing room. He remembered clearly that he had just seen that person going in that direction. As he walked, he gave orders through his earpiece to block Miss Xia. Su Qin looked at this chaotic scene and knit her brows tightly. She turned to ask Shen Tangning beside her, "Tell me, what on earth is Gu Yueding doing? Isn't doing this humiliating Jiang Haoming?" Shen Tangming shook her head with an expressionless face. "I don't know." She felt something very strange in the air. Su Qin leaned in closer. She whispered, "It wasn't you who pulled this stunt, was it?" Shen Tangming shot her a glance. Without saying a word, Su Qin slapped her thigh. Realizing that everyone's eyes were on her, she lowered her voice. "What did you do?" Shen Tangming shook her head. "I only informed her of some news, that Song Jinxing's mother is in critical condition. As for what she chose, that's her business." Xia Qianshu was about to return to the banquet hall when she was blocked. She knit her brows slightly. The assistant also hurried to speak. "What do you think you're doing?" That staff member was quite bold. He quickly said, "Miss, please wait a moment. Just wait 2 more minutes." The assistant saw that the situation wasn't right and intended to force her way through to clear the path. At that moment, Chu Yuan rushed over. He stood in front of Xia Qianshu and called out, "Miss, do you know that the dress you're wearing is the wedding dress that matches the groom's suit?" Chu Yuan asked breathlessly. Xia Qianshu was stunned. She indeed had such a suspicion, but why was it so? Chu Yuan continued, "Therefore, you are the bride for today." The assistant was dumbfounded. "Didn't we come to attend a wedding? How did it suddenly turn into my boss getting married?" Xia Qianshu looked at Chu Yuan and asked, "Did Jiang Haoming tell you to come?" Chu Yuan nodded slightly. "Mr. Jiang said that the person wearing this gown is today's bride. Please move to the waiting area first. I will have the makeup artist touch up your look a bit. Also, miss, do you have any photos with you? May I have a few of them, so I can replace the images on the stage?" Only then did the assistant snap out of it. She hurriedly stepped forward to shield her boss. "Let me. I will send the photos over to you right away." Chu Yuan pulled an employee over. "Just send them to this person." Then he looked towards Xia Qianshu. "Miss, it is time to go." It is almost time to enter the wedding hall. Xia Qianshu felt like everything was as ethereal as a dream. Her feet instinctively followed behind Chu Yuan. Standing before the entrance of the bustling hall, Xia Qianshu still could not believe this was reality. She glanced at Chu Yuan standing beside her. He was barking orders through his earpiece, just as he turned his head. "Miss, what is your name, so I can change the name on the announcement board?" Xia Qianshu took a business card from her handbag and handed it to him. She added, "Later, please give my assistant a business card. If I have any clients who want to hold a wedding in the future, I will refer them all to you." Hearing that, Chu Yuan felt as if countless gold coins were continuously flying toward him. He smiled at her. "Miss Xia, are you ready? We are about to enter the wedding hall." As soon as he finished speaking, Chu Yuan looked toward the main doors. "Ready. The bride is entering the hall. 3, 2, 1, go." The massive doors slowly opened. Xia Qianshu's mind was still a bit dazed. She took a deep breath to regain her composure. She felt this moment was more nerve-wracking than anything she had ever faced before. Almost the instant the doors opened, everyone's eyes were fixed on this spot. Everyone looked utterly shocked. "Didn't they say the bride ran away?" Xia Qianshu looked at me as I turned to look at her. Seeing the mischief hidden within my smiling eyes, she could not help but smile back softly. Then she stepped firmly toward me. Elder Xia had been restless and unable to sit still. For his granddaughter's wedding, he had invited all relatives and friends to attend. After all, he was not sure if he would live to see the day his own stubborn girl would finally get married, so taking the chance of his granddaughter's wedding, he wanted a grand celebration. He invited many acquaintances to make the atmosphere lively. To his surprise, the wedding had already begun. But that granddaughter was still nowhere to be found, no matter what had happened. He should not have left the young man standing here, all alone. Elder Xia felt extremely disappointed in his son-in-law and daughter, truly disappointed. He believed they did not know how to raise their child. Just as he was about to signal to leave, he was called back. Uncle, isn't that Qianshu? That is right, great-grandpa. Why has little aunt become the bride? Yeah, isn't today Gu Yuding's wedding? They were all filled with doubt. They turned to the LED screen to double-check. Seeing the words, "A warm welcome to the guests, to the wedding of Xia Qianshu and Zhang Haoming." Elder Xia thought his ears were failing him. He shouted, "What? Who did you say is getting married?" "Uncle, it is Qianshu." "Look, who else could that be on stage if not Qianshui?" "That is right, uncle, it is definitely little aunt." Elder Xia turned his head once more. Though he was advanced in years, his vision was still very sharp. With just one glance, he saw that the woman standing as the bride was indeed his stubborn girl. The old man was overjoyed. "Ha ha ha. Girl is finally getting married today. Do not anyone dare leave. Eat and drink to your heart's content." The younger nieces and nephews looked at each other awkwardly. Their expressions were quite strained. Anyone could see there is something wrong with this wedding. Changing the bride at the last minute. This is just too bizarre. Unfortunately, the old man was too ecstatic. They did not dare say anything to dampen his spirits. After all, in the Xia family, if it was not the old man's decision, then it was Xia Qianshui in power. They could not do a thing. Better to just happily offer their blessings and be done with it. So, after the old man finished speaking, the whole crowd hurriedly chimed in. "Congratulations. Congratulations. The miss is finally willing to get married. The two of you look so perfect together. A truly talented man and a beautiful woman." Yes, that is exactly right. A perfect match, truly a perfect match. The old man was crazy with joy. He grinned from ear to ear. "Ha ha 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 ha. A great match, a great match. In all my life, I never expected to see this day. Everyone eat and drink your fill. Drink to your heart's content. Tonight this old man is treating everyone to karaoke." The little granddaughter beside him quickly corrected. "Grandpa, people call it KTV now." The old man nodded repeatedly. Right. It is KTV. I will take you all to KTV." Mother Gu looked at the person on stage, her brows furrowed tightly. Why has it turned into Qianshu? Wasn't it supposed to be Gu Yuding? She turned to look at the display board nearby, discovering that all the wedding photos had been changed to Xia Qianxi. Mother Gu turned to Father Gu in a panic. What? What is going on? Father Gu frowned, but he tried to stay calm. Just as he was about to shout, "Outrageous," a staff member approached. "Excuse me, you two. You may need to change your seats. This area is reserved for the families of the groom and bride," the staff member said while pointing behind him. Elder Xia was being helped toward them. Mother Gu exclaimed reproachfully, "Dad, what are you doing joining in this mess?" Elder Xia glared at her. "I am causing trouble." "Clearly, you are the ones causing trouble. Move. Do not stop me from chatting with my in-laws." After that, Elder Xia stepped in front of my parents. "Greetings, in-laws. I am Xia Duhua, Xia Qianshu's father. It is our first meeting. I hope for your kind consideration." My parents were already quite confused, but thanks to their good upbringing, they never showed a cold attitude toward others. They politely reached out to greet Elder Xia. Elder Xia was extremely friendly. After sitting down, he waved. "Sit. Everyone please sit. Let us sit and talk. The in-laws will have to go on stage soon." Father Gu and Mother Gu were led by the staff to the relatives' seating area. Father Gu, with a face as dark as a pot's bottom, turned to Mother Gu. "Call that stubborn girl right now. Tell her to get her tail back here immediately. If she doesn't come back, she will lose her husband for good." On the other side, the wedding proceeded as normal. At this point, some of the Xia relatives looked at Father Gu's scowling face. Mother Gu forced a smile. They could not help but sneer. "Oh, little brother, why didn't your Gu Yuding come? Does she not know today is her wedding day?" Father Gu watched them openly mock him, feeling both furious and intensely anxious. Now his son-in-law is about to become his brother-in-law. He is about to become the world's biggest laughingstock. Father Gu could not help but resent me if I had not suddenly switched brides. Then he and the Gu family would not be in such a ridiculous situation. The men beside him exchanged silent glances, having fought each other for half their lives. How could they not know what Father Gu was thinking? They continued to taunt. Some people are truly selfish, do not know how to raise their own daughter properly, yet they want to push all the blame onto others. It is quite disgusting. In this circle, everyone knows. Before Big Brother Jiang returned, Gu Yuding had already brought that guy to meet us. I have seen him several times. He looks so lowly. I have no idea why Sister Yueding likes him, but for Yueding to vanish today probably has something to do with that guy. You do not need to worry about Yueding's marriage prospects, though. She might just bring him home in a few days. Then you'll have your precious son-in-law. Father Gus's face turned as pale as paper. He looked toward my parents in confusion. his daughter and Jiang Haoming. Weren't they freely in love? Why has another man suddenly appeared? Mother Gu had kept the same expression from the start. Hearing this, she only frowned. Her face remained sullen, not saying a word. Up there, my mother had stepped onto the stage. She offered her arm for me to take. She smiled gently. Mother did not lead me straight to the bride. Instead, she looked into my eyes. If you don't want to, you don't have to marry. You don't need to worry about anything else. Just let me handle it all. I knew that for a mother who spent her life researching cells like mine, for her to say such words was not easy at all. Back when the two families were discussing the marriage, my father discussed all the details. Mother just stood by and listened. She almost never spoke. Today, besides the Jiang relative, there were also colleagues and leaders from Mother's lab. If this wedding failed because the bride ran away, my parents would surely face a lot of gossip. Mother, it is not that I don't want to. Look at what she is wearing. It is originally a set meant for my outfit. Hearing this, my mother looked at Sha Qianshu standing nearby. She felt the girl looked very dignified and respectful. Plus, earlier, Elder Sha had mentioned a few things about how Sha Qianshu was raised. So my mother actually felt some affinity for her. But she absolutely would not let her son suffer any grievances. If you truly like her, then go ahead and marry. But if she ever treats you poorly, you absolutely must not just endure it. Our family does not need to live at anyone's mercy. I smiled, my eyes stinging slightly. I truly could not help it when someone treated me so well. Yes, mother. Only then did my mother lead me, step by step toward the woman waiting for us. When we reached her, mother looked at Sha Qianshu and instructed, "Please treat my son well. If not, I will not let you off easy." Sha Qianshu said with a very serious expression, "Mother, I will definitely take good care of him." I looked at the solemn faces of those two women. Mother placed my hand into Sha Qianshu's. She stood watching the two of us walk toward the altar together. A satisfied smile touched Mother's lips. Then, Mother slowly stepped down from the stage. Elder Sha's eyes were also slightly red. Seeing my mother come down, he hurriedly stood up to greet her. "In-law, please sit, please sit." My father had been talking to the old man for a while. He had a good grasp of the Shah family's situation. Dad knew that as his Shah son-in-law, there would not be complex relationships. Furthermore, the two of you would live separately, making relative relationships much easier to manage. Anyway, everyone else in the Shah family depended on Sha Qianshu for a living, so they certainly would not dare target us. Deep down, my father felt marrying into the Shah family was much better than the Gu family. Just thinking of the Gu family, father's expression turned very sour. The Gu family had truly gone too far this time. Earlier, when Gu Yuding vanished, the Gu family did not offer even a single apology, nor was there any reaction like searching for her or showing concern. In short, they had no intention of resolving the issue. Wasn't that action equivalent to cornering me? My father was not one to hold grudges, but this time, he would definitely remember it well. Over there, the host was trying to stir up the atmosphere. Since he was personally invited by Chu Yuan, his professional skills were truly impressive. With just a few sentences, turned the cooling atmosphere into a lively one. Next was the speech segment for the elders. The host invited Elder Sia to the stage. Elder Sia stepped up with a beaming smile. To add solemnity to the big day, he wore a very neat Zhongshan suit today. He looked very appropriate and dignified. Elder Sia stood on the podium, holding the microphone. He said happily, "My daughter is getting married today. I am truly overjoyed. I used to think that with her personality, she might never be willing to get married. When she was little, she said when she grew up, she would shoulder the company's work for me. As of now, it seems she truly has." Elder Sha continued to say much more. I listened while tilting my head to look at Sha Qianshu. Sha Qianshu felt it and looked back at me. She smiled softly. "If he accidentally tells some embarrassing childhood stories about me later, don't you listen, okay?" I chuckled. "Then I will have to ask for more details. Let us see if CEO Sha has any embarrassing secrets from her childhood." Sha Qianshu wrapped her arm around my waist. She could not help but gently stroke my palm. Then she whispered in my ear, "You like that? Tonight, I will tell you everything." I smiled in response. Then I looked up again at the old man speaking. The old man did not ramble for too long. He had already started moving toward the conclusion. "My daughter is marrying today, on this auspicious day. I would like to announce something. I will grant 10% of the shares in my name to my son-in-law, Jiang Haoming." As soon as those words were uttered, everyone present was stunned. On the other side, the host asked us to exchange rings. Su Qin looked at Shen Tangning's ashen face. She did not even dare to say a word. Shen Tangning stared intently at the two on stage. If the bride were Gu Yuding, then she could still understand, and could force herself to accept that reality. But ironically, it was not Gu Yuding. Instead, it was a woman who appeared out of nowhere. Sha Qianshu. Su Qin sighed. Watching her best friend shove herself in the foot, she could not help but feel sorry for her friend. Su Qin thought for a moment. Finally, she spoke. Should you tell Gu Yuding to come back? At least then this wedding will not be able to continue. Otherwise, everything is about to be set in stone. Shen Tangming frowned. How could she not have thought of that? But if I call Gu Yuding back now, what will Jiang Haoming do? She could not keep humiliating Jiang Haoming over and over like this, so Shen Tangming did nothing. As for Gu Yuding, it would not matter whether she came back or not. Shen Tangming thought to herself, surely she was already on Jiang Haoming's blacklist. At least I am still his best friend. Su Qin saw that Shen Tangming remained silent. She added, actually, this is just the wedding ceremony. They haven't officially registered the marriage yet. There's still a chance to turn things around. Don't worry too much. Hearing this, Shen Tangming's expression began to soften slightly. Right, they had not officially registered yet. There was indeed still hope, but they didn't expect that. Gu Yuding had actually returned. Fortunately, she could not even make it through the main gates. Chu Yuan had calculated carefully since the bride switch, in case the old bride suddenly changed her mind and came back here to cause a scene. Then today would truly become a laughingstock. He absolutely would not allow me to suffer such humiliation, and would never allow his career to have such a massive stain. So he mobilized a large number of staff members to stand guard strictly at the main gates, posted photos of Gu Yueding, and ordered them to block her at all costs. They must not let her set foot inside. Sha Qianshu's assistant was also on standby to assist them. When hearing Chu Yuan say Gu Yueding might return, she immediately called for a large team of bodyguards. They surrounded the main gate without a single gap. Not even a fly could get through, let alone a flesh and blood human. When Gu Yueding hurriedly arrived, what met her eyes were layers of human barriers. She frowned in annoyance. Being in a rush, she tried to push through. Please make way for me. I have an urgent matter. But those human walls remained motionless. A manager spoke coldly. My apologies. This path is currently closed off. Gu Yuding could not understand. I'm in a huge hurry. Who you think you are to stop me? Has something happened inside? Excuse us. A major wedding is being held inside. We don't want anyone going in to disturb it. Gu Yuding found it ridiculous. I am the bride. If you don't let me in, how can they have a wedding inside? Guards looked at her suspiciously. If you are the bride, then why are you only showing up now? The ceremony began a long time ago. Gu Yuding huffed out of breath. Looking at the dense barrier of people, she had to suppress her anger to explain, I had some business, so I had to step out for a bit. Please let me in immediately, otherwise the wedding cannot go on. The guards remained like stone. They didn't even bother to glance at her. Gu Yuding was worried sick, intending to call her relatives. She realized she had no idea where she'd left her phone, in some corner somewhere. While in a panic, she spotted someone in his staff uniform. That was the person who had brought her the gown earlier. She shouted, Hey you, please tell them for me. I am the bride. Tell them to let me inside. Please help me. Staff member turned around, glancing past the 2 layers of human barriers, and slowly walked over. Gu Yuding was secretly relieved. She waited anxiously for him to explain to the guards so she could attend the wedding. But unexpectedly, after the staff member approached, he only checked the guard's situation. Then he pointed at someone, standing in the staff line behind them. You follow me inside and lend a hand. The bride and groom have started toasting the guests. It is hectic as hell in there. The person called immediately stepped out of line. Only then did Gu Yuding realize in shock. Standing right behind the guards were all the wedding staff. That person, while passing by, said to the gatekeepers, Good work, everyone. I'll bring out some wedding candy later. The head guard nodded with satisfaction and resumed standing rigidly across the entrance. Gu Yuding was beyond shocked. What's wrong with you people? I am the bride, if I'm not even inside. Who is the groom toasting with? Xia Qianshu and I began going to each table for toasts. When we reached Father and Mother Gus' table, the smile on my lips faded slightly. Mother Gu had no intention of standing up. Father Gu also remained sitting still. Xia Qianshu frowned slightly. She called out, Brother. Father Gu only let out a cold humph. He didn't bother looking. Mother Gu beside him didn't react either. I wasn't embarrassed by it. I just gave a faint smile. Then I signaled Chu Yuan over. Chu Yuan quickly stepped to my side. He handed me 2 bright red envelopes. While taking the wine glass from my hand, I smiled softly, placing the 2 red envelopes on the table right in front of them. Actually, from today on, I should change how I address you. These are special red envelopes for you and your wife. I hope you will both accept them. Those around them saw how thick the envelopes were. All raised an eyebrow. Is he trying to suck up to them? Immediately, every eye was fixed on me in scrutiny. I stood up straight. Sha Qianshu moved slightly closer to me. She reached out as if to protect me, seeing Father Gus' blunt hostility. His face was full of disdain, ignoring me. I smiled. You two should open them and see. Maybe after seeing this, you won't be so angry anymore. Saying that, Sha Qianshu and I turned to greet the other relatives. The others, naturally, didn't want to embarrass themselves or offend anyone. They all hurriedly stood up in response. Both sides chatted together very happily and vibrantly. Father Gu, having heard my words and seeing my face, still nonchalant, felt suspicious that something was fishy. He hurriedly tore open the red envelope. The whole table peered over curiously, even though everyone here was wealthy and didn't lack money. Anyone loves to watch drama and excitement. Father Gu had just opened the envelope. The contents spilled out one after another, scattered all over the banquet table. They were a bunch of photos. In each photograph was Gu Yuding being extremely intimate with other men. All that filthy evidence was thus exposed in broad daylight. Suddenly, someone gasped in surprise, immediately drawing countless more curious gazes to their table. Those with sharp eyes could clearly see every single photo. Instantly, their looks toward Father and Mother Gu turned into contempt and mockery. Mother Gu, sensing trouble, frowned deeply. She also hurriedly opened her own red envelope. Inside was another thick stack of photos. The main character remained the same. Only the settings and locations were different. They looked as passionate as a newlywed couple. Mother Gu's face was now darker than ever. I stood observing, seeing that the people around had seen enough. Then I feigned great surprise. Oh my, how could I have given the wrong ones? Having said that, I turned around. Once more. I took 2 envelopes of normal thickness from Chu Yuan. These 2 are the right ones. My apologies, please understand. Xia Qianshu, standing by my side and witnessing this, couldn't help but shake her head with a smile. She knew all too well that I am one to hold a grudge. Having said that, I turned to the relatives who had just stood up and politely toasted them alongside Xia Qianshu, completely ignoring the awkwardness of Gu Yuting's parents. Even though I said they were given by mistake, I had no intention of taking those photos back. After finishing the toast at this table, as I prepared to move to the next one, I happened to brush past Gu Yuting's father and leaned in to whisper a few words to him. Uncle, I once gave Gu Yuting a chance, but she didn't know how to cherish it. Abandoning me on our wedding day to seek someone else, please pass a message to her for me. Never show her face in front of me again. His face stiffened as he hurriedly gathered the photos from the table. Feeling countless gazes fixed upon them, Gu Yuting's father pulled her mother away, and they quickly retreated in shame. In an instant, the banquet was filled with joy once again. After the wedding feast concluded, Xia Qianshu and I bid everyone farewell at the parking lot. The parents of both sides watched as the parents' cars drove away, then we drove back to Xia Qianshu's home. The assistant, while driving, secretly admired her own efficiency. While the ceremony was underway, she had to manage the banquet details while rushing to decorate the bridal suite. The assistant thought to herself, hoping that when the boss saw it, she would receive a little extra bonus. I arrived at Xia Qianshu's residence and then said goodbye to the assistant. We stepped into the house together. As the door opened, my eyes lit up. Right at the entrance was a large heart made of crimson roses. The pure white walls were now covered with double happiness symbols. The living room lights had been changed to a warm golden hue. The coffee table was laden with wedding candies. I walked toward the bedroom, and upon pushing the door open, saw the bright red bedding on the bed and clusters of romantic red balloons throughout the room. I couldn't help but smile, turning my head to meet Xia Qianshu's eyes. Xia Qianshu looked around, her eyebrows arched in amusement. Then she swept me off my feet from behind and laid me on the bed. She leaned over me, her breath warm and intoxicating. Tell me now, when exactly did you start scheming against me? Scheming about what? Xia Qianshu toyed with a lock of my hair and asked, scheming about what? Scheming to turn me into your bride, of course. I burst out laughing. I only wanted to set a trap for Gu Yuting. How can you call that scheming against you? Who would have thought she'd actually run away from the wedding? Even I didn't anticipate this move. Xia Qianshu looked at me with a completely unbelieving gaze. Then why was it me? I tilted my head, pretending to think seriously, then slowly spoke. Actually, at first, I did consider someone else. Xia Qianshu tightened her grip on my waist and glared at me threateningly. Regardless of who you once thought of, from today on, you're only allowed to have me in your head. No one else is permitted to interfere. I laughed brightly, my eyes filled with pure happiness. Xia Qianshu smiled along, but she still couldn't resist making me promise. Did you hear me clearly? I nodded repeatedly. I heard you. Meanwhile, as for Gu Yuting, she stood at the door, borrowing a phone and pleading desperately, but the other party adamantly refused to let her in. She was on the very edge of despair. Just when all hope seemed lost, she saw a bodyguard take a call. Then he gave a signal, and the wall of people before her suddenly dispersed. Seeing this, Gu Yuting rushed inside. Reaching the hall, she was stunned to find the wedding had already ended. The staff cleaning the venue saw her and, thinking she had forgotten something, asked hurriedly, "Miss, can I help you with something?" Gu Yuting asked frantically, "Where is the wedding?" The wedding ended a long time ago. The staff member looked at the woman who hadn't even made it to the banquet, a hint of pity flashing in their eyes. Gu Yuting couldn't believe it. It's over? How could it be over without the bride? Or was it canceled? The staff member was puzzled. There was a bride. The groom and bride completed the rites, and after the toasts, everyone went home. But the bride was truly beautiful, and the groom was very handsome too, a truly perfect and well-matched couple. Hearing this, Gu Yuting felt the wedding here certainly wasn't hers and Jiang Haoming's. Otherwise, where would a bride come from? Thinking of something, Gu Yuting hurried down to the parking garage. Surely, someone must still be there. In the parking lot, sure enough, Su Qin was comforting Shen Tangning with an arm around her shoulder. Come on, Tangning. Don't be sad anymore. Tonight, us girls will drink with you until we drop. Let's go. I booked a room already. Shen Tangning leaned against the car door, head down in silence. Su Qin saw this and felt it was truly unfair. If someone as beautiful as her has to be so gloomy, what hope is there for someone with average looks like me? How about I introduce a boyfriend to you? Isn't it said that the best way to heal a broken heart is to start a new relationship? Let's go. Your big sister will call some top-tier guys for you. Shen Tangning suddenly snapped her head up, staring at Su Qin. Tell me, what do you think they are doing right now? Su Qin clapped her hands. Their wedding night, of course. Tonight. She stopped mid-sentence, seeing Shen Tangning's darkened expression, and quickly tried to fix it. Well, maybe they're just discussing contract terms, like Xia Qianshu wanting Jiang Haoming to transfer shares to her, and Jiang Haoming asking Xia Qianshu to play the role of his wife for a while. Once everyone forgets about this, they'll just quietly get a divorce. Shen Tangning bowed her head and then looked up again. Be honest? Su Qin replied hurriedly. That's how it always goes on TV. Otherwise, how could Jiang Haoming just pull anyone to get married like that? What do you mean by just pulling anyone to get married? Gu Yuting stepped forward, looking at her two friends with furrows in her brow. I heard the wedding banquet is over. Why? Did Jiang Haoming give the banquet to someone else? Shen Tangning gave her a cold glance and lowered her head again. Su Qin gave an awkward smile. Not exactly. Although there was a small hiccup with the ceremony, overall it went quite smoothly. Gu Yuting grew more and more confused. How could it go smoothly? I wasn't even there. Who could he possibly have married? Shen Tangning sneered. So you actually know you weren't there. You put him in such an embarrassing position, Gu Yuting. Do you think what you did is even human? Gu Yuting was at a loss for words. I had an emergency. Shen Tangning snorted coldly. Your emergency was Song Jingxing, right? Gu Yuting, you're really something. Having said that, Shen Tangning didn't bother with Gu Yuting anymore and quietly got into her car. Gu Yuting turned to Su Qin. What's wrong with her? Did she eat gunpowder? Su Qin patted Gu Yuting's shoulder. Yuting, this time you've truly gone too far. Never mind, you've pretty much received your punishment anyway. With that, Su Qin prepared to leave, was held back by Gu Yuting. Gu Yuting's heart was full of unease. Explain it clearly. What exactly happened? Su Qin sighed. You abandoned the wedding on the spot, making Jiang Haoming lose face before so many people. He has already married someone else. Anyway, go home and check the news. It's probably everywhere by now. There were many reporters there today. Su Qin got into Shen Tangning's car. As soon as she was settled, Shen Tangning floored the accelerator and sped off, completely ignoring Gu Yuting, who stood there dazed. Seeing this, Su Qin couldn't help but let out a soft sigh. It seems their decade-long friendship might end right here. But even Su Qin didn't expect that. Even though she'd known Gu Yuting for over 10 years, she never truly understood the person she was. The things Gu Yuting had done were truly unacceptable. Gu Yuting stood frozen to the spot, Su Qin's words echoing in her head. Jiang Haoming has married someone else. Jiang Haoming has married someone else. Just who on earth did he marry? Today was clearly supposed to be our wedding. As if suddenly remembering something, Gu Yuting rushed back home. By the time she arrived, an hour had already passed. And at this moment, the media outlets had already been reporting extensively on the wedding incident. The moment Gu Yuting walked through the door, a shocking news report was playing on the TV. Shocking. Genius artist switches brides at the wedding. What is the underlying reason? The genius artist got married today, but the bride fled the scene. The fate of the genius artist after being abandoned. Gu Yuting stood in the middle of the living room, staring at the media images, looking like she had lost her soul. Gu Yuting's parents were sitting on the sofa watching the news, checking if the media was tarnishing the family's reputation. Looking up, they saw their unfilial daughter, long out of contact, had returned home. Gu Yuting's father's rage flared up. He stood up and shouted, "What on earth are you doing?" Gu Yuting lowered her head. "Dad, I'm sorry. I had some business today." Slap. A stack of photos was thrown right at Gu Yuting's face. Gu Yuting looked at the photos scattered on the floor, her face turning deathly pale. Her father roared, "Is this the business you were talking about? How important was this business? Important enough. That you could abandon the man you were supposed to marry to run off and do this nonsense? Was he dying and wanted a last look at you? Or did he leave you hundreds of millions in assets that you had to rush off to collect? Gu Yueting bit her lip and explained softly. His mother was in critical condition. Is she your mother? Her father's fury erupted even more violently. Gu Yueting, how did your mother and I raise you? Why were you in such a rush? I fear that on the day I pass away, you won't even be this anxious. Dad. Gu Yueting looked at her father in disbelief. Was she really such an unfilial person in his eyes? Her father sneered. You have the nerve to call me dad. Do you even know the results of my annual health checkups? Do you know anything about your mother's health status? Do you know what ailments we two old souls have? Gu Yueting was speechless. She truly didn't know anything. Seeing them always healthy, she had rarely paid any attention to those matters. Her mother shook her head in disappointment. But you're willing to find doctors for outsiders, ready to fret frantically over someone else's mother. Your own mother goes to the hospital and you don't know. But when someone else's mother is hospitalized, you're busy running around to manage everything. Gu Yueting, whose child are you anyway? Gu Yueting lowered her head in silence. She suddenly realized she had been far too indifferent to her parents. And what's more, why was she so worried about Song Jingxing's mother? She had clearly severed ties with Song Jingxing. Her father closed his eyes, completely disappointed in his daughter and disappointed in himself as well. He had spent over 30 years raising her, giving her the best education, creating the most favorable conditions, only to end up with someone so heartless and ungrateful, and so unfilial to boot. He felt his life was a failure. The wedding ceremony is over. You thoroughly offended the Jiang family. Don't you ever dare seek out Jiang Haoming again. As for that man, don't even dream of bringing him through the Gu family's doors. I will absolutely never agree to it. If you insist on marrying him, then sever all ties with this house. Dad, don't call me dad. Her father gave her a cold look. Tomorrow, the company will surely face negative publicity. Go to the company and handle it yourself. Gu Yueting's lips trembled. Jiang Haoming, I will definitely apologize so he forgives me. Dad, please don't be angry anymore. Gu Yueting's father looked at his daughter with a gaze full of bewilderment mixed with contempt. How do you have the audacity to say such things? Gu Yueting's lips were pale, her face turning from white to ashen. Her mother sighed. Everyone was right. You truly don't deserve Jiang Haoming. Having said that, she turned and walked straight upstairs. Then her father coughed slightly and looked toward Gu Yueting. You've gone too far with this. Neither I nor your mother forced this wedding on you. You were the one who wanted to get married. And yet it has come to this mess. I taught you since you were little. The most important thing is to keep your word. Acting like this now, who would ever dare to do business with you in the future? Gu Yueting stood in silence, unable to find any words to defend herself. Her father sighed. Fine. Over the next few days, make sure to settle the company matters. And as for that man, deal with him once and for all. With that, he also went upstairs. Gu Yueting stood all alone while the TV screen continued to report on my wedding. Time passed in silence. Early the next morning, Gu Yueting discovered that the bride had been replaced by Sha Qianshu. She immediately drove to Sha Qianshu's residence. Seeing the villa brightly decorated in red, Gu Yueting almost couldn't stop herself from barging in. But in the end, she managed to restrain herself. Her pride and upbringing wouldn't allow her to act so recklessly. And deep down, she was afraid. Afraid that if she went in, she would witness scenes she never wanted to see. Sha Qianshu was the first to step out. From her appearance, she seemed to be heading to work. But Gu Yueting could clearly see the radiant happiness on her face. Auntie, don't you think what you've done is too much? Sha Qianshu saw Gu Yueting and only slightly raised an eyebrow. I thought you'd run away for good. Why did you come back? Or did you not bring enough money? Gu Yueting suddenly grabbed Sha Qianshu's collar. What right do you have to mock me? That man is my boyfriend, my fiancé, my husband. Sha Qianshu smirked. You're mistaken. He's my husband now. With that, Sha Qianshu brushed off Gu Yueting's hand and leisurely tilted her head to one side. While straightening her crumpled collar, accidentally revealed a crimson hickey on her neck. Seeing that scene, Gu Yueting's eyes turned red with resentment. It was all just a misunderstanding between us. I just need to explain everything to him. After saying that, Gu Yueting tried to rush into the house. Sha Qianshu quickly grabbed her and pushed her back firmly. Blocking her path, Gu Yueting, grow up. From the moment you fled, you should realize that you've made your choice. The moment you left him all alone, at your own wedding, you completely lost that right. What makes you so confident to think that he would still forgive you? Gu Yueting stood frozen, staring at the door not far away. She was unwilling to let go, truly unwilling. Hearing the commotion outside, I stepped out wearing my loungewear. Didn't you say you were going to work? Why haven't you left yet? Sha Qianshu frowned slightly when she heard my voice. She didn't want me to have to face Gu Yueting, since she and I had been together for several years. I saw Gu Yueting and also frowned slightly. Seeing me, Gu Yueting hurriedly tried to approach. Sha Qianshu, quick as a flash, pulled the garden gate shut, locking Gu Yueting outside. I burst out laughing, giving Sha Qianshu an admiring look. As expected of my wife, well done. Sha Qianshu's face beamed with victory. Meanwhile, Gu Yueting's face darkened with anger. Please listen to my explanation. I'm sick and tired of your explanations. I picked up my ear, leaning against the door rather unceremoniously, and looked lazily at Gu Yuting. I don't need any explanation whatsoever. I already told your mother to tell you never to look for me again. It seems she hasn't properly passed the message to you yet. Gu Yuting cried out in pain. Haoming, we were together for 7 years. 7 years. Yet you've only regressed. No responsibility, no character. And you even learned to keep a secret lover and cheat, Gu Yuting. I'm starting to doubt myself, wondering what I ever saw in you in the first place. What? Gu Yuting stood stunned, looking at me in total disbelief. I looked her straight in the eyes without flinching, my gaze cold. Gu Yuting, never look for me again. I find you utterly repulsive. Gu Yuting took a step back, unable to stand steady. She had never truly seen through me, or rather, she never truly understood who I am. Leaning against the door, feeling a bit weary, I spoke with fading patience. Gu Yuting, no one is I once said I would give you one last chance. Sha Qianshu's heart tightened, her hands clutching the railing even harder. But you've already wasted that chance. Everything I promised, I have fulfilled. During that final chance, you chose that other man. So with what face do you come looking for me? Gu Yuting's face was deathly pale. She didn't know what else to say to save the situation. I didn't bother to say another word, turning to Sha Qianshu. Go get ready for work, hurry, or you'll be late. Remember to tell the building management not to let just anyone in here and disturb my rest. Sha Qianshu smiled. Understood. Just rest. I'll come back at noon to take you to lunch. Then we'll go pack your things. I thought for a moment. None of those things are really important. Why don't we just buy all new things? Sha Qianshu nodded. Whatever you wish. Feeling very happy, placed a kiss on her cheek and waved as I leisurely walked back inside. Once the door had closed, Sha Qianshu turned and warned Gu Yueting through gritted teeth, "Don't you ever come back here again, or I will show you no mercy." When Sha Qianshu arrived at the company, she noticed people looking at her in a strange way. Upon entering her office, she immediately called her assistant. "What happened at the company today?" "Nothing, ma'am." The assistant looked confused, but catching her boss' eye, she suddenly remembered. "Oh, right. It's probably because you went to a wedding yesterday, only to end up getting married yourself. Everyone is still in shock. They can't believe it. Plus, you arrived late this morning, so everyone." Sha Qianshu slightly arched an eyebrow. What's the situation on social media? Most of the comments are positive right now. Everyone is siding with Mr. Zhang. Oh no, I mean the big boss. Sha Qianshu looked at her with approval, then jerked her chin, signaling her to continue the report. I've had the media department monitor things closely. If the Gu family dares to try and smear Big Boss reputation, we'll immediately release all their previous scandals. Sha Qianshu looked very satisfied. She took a red envelope from her bag and pushed it toward her eyes full of pride. "This is a bonus for you from your big boss." The assistant's eyes lit up. She hurriedly tucked the red envelope away, her hands involuntarily feeling its thickness, her mouth splitting into a wide grin. "Thank you, boss. Thank you so much, big boss." At noon, Sha Qianshu came back to pick me up for lunch. After eating, we went straight to the Civil Affairs Bureau. I paused, looking at her with a questioning gaze. Sha Qianshu smirked when she saw this. "What's wrong? Are you planning to not take responsibility for me?" Sensing a bit of petulance from Sha Qianshu, I smiled and explained. "I just wanted to say, I didn't bring my ID or household registration book." A mysterious smile appeared on Sha Qianshu's face. She took my household registration book and ID out of her bag. I brought them. My own household registration book? How did it end up in Sha Qianshu's hands? Sha Qianshu smiled at my surprised expression. Her mother gave it to me.